Hello my friends and welcome to Adobe Live. I'm your host Kieran Lewis, a designer from London, and today we have the very awesome designer who is no stranger to the Adobe hemisphere, freelance experience designer and artist Melanie David. How you doing, Melanie?
I'm good. Good to see you here. It's
Good
so lovely to be back.
Yeah, we've done a few streams together, so it's nice to bring you back and collaborate again, no?
It is.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this collaboration.
We're going to do a nice collaboration. And obviously, of course, we want to see you folks getting involved as always. So if you're on YouTube, perhaps send some love. In fact, send some emoji claps, please, for Melanie so that we can get in the old atmosphere and the sphere. So Melanie, today I've heard we're working on some geometric shapes. Is that correct?
Yes, we will cover pretty much all the updates in Adobe Illustrator.
Cool.
And I will show you a bit of how I work because all the things we're going to talk about today are usually improving our productivity, which means we're so much faster that
that's what we need as designers,
we'll
right?
squeeze in some other stuff.
No, there's a lot to cram in. Of course, we are in day 2 of Adobe MAX as well, so I'm sure we've all been refreshed from yesterday, and today is obviously another day to get going. So any questions you have for the lovely Melanie, please do share that in the chat. So yeah, when you're ready, let's jump into it.
Perfect. Maybe we can start with a little bit of an overview of what I usually do.
Let's
because
do that,
I think that might help to grab better what I'm actually doing on a daily basis. As you mentioned, I'm an experienced designer. Everything I do involves, it's all evolving. It's all about design pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah.
Some cool stuff there though. I'm liking it. I feel behind us is like some floating, I feel I'm being knocked around by the floating lava lamp elements, but it's very cool.
Yeah, no, it's one example of what I do because most people, whenever they hear the term experience design, it's really hard to grasp. Usually what people know is user experience design, which is focusing a lot of on interfaces. And that's where my base knowledge is. I've been spending a lot of time on designing digital interfaces for digital products. But what I also do is all the artsy stuff that you can see here. And that really ranges from analog things to, digital and moving, like those little short clips and videos, visuals. I'm super proud still about this stamp you see up there because it was really available in Germany, or still is. It's a special edition.
There we go.
Yeah.
Just drop that in there like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the other stuff is just artsy fun things I've been working on, and I always use Adobe tools.
Nice.
And sometimes people get really stuck on one tool, so they just use Adobe Illustrator or just Photoshop, Premiere Pro, Fresco, whatsoever. But that's not what I do. I really mix up all the tools that are available, and I love exploring the new ones. That's why Adobe MAX is always one of the highlights during the year.
Nice. And I can see a lot of folks that are tuning in today. I mentioned the emoji hand claps, and there's quite a few. So just to send some love, we've got Robert in the chat, Oliver, Anton, Nate, Amy. So hello, my friends, and welcome. And we're in the flow of it, which is good.
Very nice. As I told you before, we're going to talk about generative fill today in Illustrator. We will have a look at the objects on path and also the mockup tool at the very end, which are rather new features.
Cool.
Mockup's been there for the beta version already, but now it's in the latest Adobe Illustrator version that's available on the Creative Cloud. Not sure if you've talked about this already, but anyone who did not update their Creative Cloud apps yet, do that.
Update.
Yes.
Got a disclaimer running across the screen now saying update.
Because everything you've seen here on stream or during the keynote, which was available for streaming, of course, in case you did not join MAX in Miami, which is still a shame.
I mean, the Munich is the next best step, right?
I know, but
it's no Miami, but it's Munich. It's okay.
I would have loved to join Miami, so next time, please let me know in case you have a spot free. I think you would join, right?
Of course, yeah. I would love to. I'd love to join. Yeah,
so next time we have to be a bit more pokey about it.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it. But again, I feel like folks who weren't able to, go to Miami, they've watched it online, they've watched it virtually, so they've had a bit of an experience of without the sun, of course.
Absolutely.
There we go. Next best thing. So yeah.
And there was so much going on anyway online. So,
yes, and a lot of keynote. I mean, again, anyone in the chat, if you watched any keynotes, any cool inspirational talks, let us know in the chat what you guys think. Any tools you would like to see, and any updates that you think are really cool within your own workflow. Let us know in the chat.
I will quickly go through this because I've been talking about generative work and Adobe Firefly, and that's an artwork I created with the help of Firefly. I know there's a lot of criticism going on with AI tools, but I think it can be a really nice help to improve our own workflows. And what you see here is a mix of photography, my own illustrations, and a bit of Firefly in Photoshop. And all that was pretty much the visual. You see the static one was the starting point for the animations later on, and I'm not sure if I talked about this before, but I love doing research.
Okay. No.
So I'm
Hit us in there. Okay.
anything that's revolving around human-computer interaction. And it's something I'm currently looking into. It's how we can maybe even make those things you see here on screen, the visuals, make it tangible in some way.
Gotcha, yeah. And is that you, the model? Are you the model?
Interface? Yeah, it's my face.
It is your
But
face. I love that. Trinity from Matrix Star. Cool.
It's a part of my face. So it's pretty much.
Just elements from.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I love to sort of see the static on the left, and then how you've evolved it and taken it into the motion world, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it's an explorative approach, which means I start somewhere and then I just try different tools, try new effects, try new features, and because this is what keeps me going, you know. And this informs all the other projects I work on with clients then later on, or that's what I do in workshops with other people.
Nice.
Yeah. Some more stuff, of course, once I have this, as I told you before, I'm looking how to make this interactive, so how you can really interact with the visuals I create, which is sometimes little knobs, microcontrollers, and it's really fun to look into that.
Yeah.
One of the projects I'm very proud of, because I do a lot of collaboration, as you can imagine. This was an audiovisual live performance, which happened this year in September at the Ars Electronica Center. And I know I'm talking too much about this because
I love it. I saw this in your Insta, I think. This is very cool.
Projects, yes. And it's again something that started in Adobe Illustrator. You know, the visual you see there, all the lines and everything. This is the starting point for the animated and interactive things later on.
Very cool.
Yeah, and that's what as I mentioned before, that's what inspires me, and that's what I love. And of course, the collaboration with Arno, whom you can see in the picture there.
Nice. I feel like we've had like such an introduction into your world and your space, and I can see folks from literally all different parts of the world. Folks are kind of tuning in. We've got France, Portugal, UK, Netherlands. So everyone's here to see you do some magic, which is good to see. No pressure, but in a good way.
No. No pressure ever, because I love being here on live streams.
Of course,
it's one of the most fun things I do.
And to be fair, we've had so many, even from yesterday, so many cool designers. Some of it was their very first time as well. So it's nice to sort of see how designers kind of, showed their methodology live on a stream. But you're seasoned pro. You've done many streams.
I would say, yes, I've done this many times, but I'm still, I'm always a little nervous.
Of course, but this is a safe space. We're good. The chat is all here. It's all love and positive energy. So we're good for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this was a pretty good overview of what I do, and I see we're losing time already because we want to show something in Illustrator. Yeah. The last thing, because as I mentioned before, I like explorative stuff, and that's another collaboration with Masha Beutel, whom I work with at university. And we did this project where we started with really haptic things. So we, of course, had scribbles of everything, but we really built. You can't see it now. We're covering.
We need to be flipped reversed. There we are. We're flipped. If by magic. There we go.
We built those little tangible objects, which were showing cancer cells. So it's very research based. But this is interpretations of us and other people of how they potentially see cancer cells, and we built those little sculptures.
Wow.
And turned that into an exhibition. Which was one of the most exciting projects. Again, there was an interactive part where you could then create those little cells by doing some interactions, which you can see on the right side. But I think it was shocking to me how long it takes to create sculptures like that.
Did you kind of underestimated how?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I'm not from this space. I don't know. I'm so new to this. So it's cool to see.
Masha works a lot with tangible things, with fabrics, textiles, but not me. I love Adobe, and I love all the tools there. Yeah. So everything that makes me more productive is something that I like.
But it's really
here
cool,
you can't skip things ahead, and you can't undo things. It's
of
always
course.
just
Maybe that's quite nice, though. No, like the actual idea of when you've done it, you have to kind of see it through. There's no undo button, basically.
Yeah.
It's not possible to control, delete, or whatever. It's just this is life. So.
Which is cool. Yeah. But on the other hand, if you do this for a couple of days, it's exhausting.
I take your word for it.
And we had a bunch of those sculptures. So Masha, thank you for pushing through with me through this project.
Love for him.
Yeah, but that was pretty much an overview of how I get to the things I do. But we can have a look now at what's coming up today. So what I prepared is something in Illustrator, and that's what we're going to talk about. I love working with geometric shapes. They're the baseline for pretty much all the things I do. But of course, I like to mix in some organic parts. I like to work a lot with noisy textures, with grain, and out of those things, I create those little, graphics. In that case, it's a self-initiated project, which I updated a bit for, of course, this stream today.
Cool. Nice.
But it's inspired, of course, by interface elements, but still somehow artsy. And, well, it's something explorative again, something that helps me to kind of work with contrast, shapes, and just figure out how compositions can work well.
Sure.
But again, this is just a starting point. At some point, I can totally picture those things being on a real interface.
For sure. And even like the idea of just looking at some of the graphics on the screen, my brain is already imagining, whether it's on After Effects or some sort of motion design.
Yes.
And it just feels, it set itself up nicely for some static or motion, right?
Yeah.
It's Instagram ready, basically, from the tiles dimensions.
Pretty much, yes. I would love to be more in the Instagram game. I have an account, of course, but I spend more time on design than Instagram, unfortunately.
It's a job in itself, right? So I think we touched on that yesterday, where it's one thing to be the designer, create new elements, but then also the social media part of promoting, plugging, updating.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I feel like anyone in the chat, let us know, because it is very much a project, and hopefully you use things like Express to help with your scheduling. There we go, just dropping that in there. But
definitely.
Yeah.
I know how it works. I use Express a lot for many things. I love the scheduler, but I barely use it, unfortunately, because I'm just getting to the point where I can upload all the graphics.
Sure. We have to walk before we can run, though, right? I guess it's like baby steps, and then we're in a good place for it.
But I know that it's there. I know that it works really well, and sometimes I've worked with Express on streams, and then I schedule things during the stream.
During the stream?
Yeah,
okay.
because I show it as an example.
Okay, makes sense. That's a productive way, no?
It's cool, but I forgot about it. So at some point I just saw it.
Just drafted for another day.
Yeah, it was a very lovely surprise.
So if you see posts on Melanie's social media, it was set basically for yesterday, but it's 2 weeks from now. I love that. Nice.
Yeah, if you see funny pink giraffes on my Instagram
Pink
account,
giraffes.
which doesn't fit my style, and it's usually something I was showing in
I love that.
Express. But I'm excited to see more about Express later today. I know Tina Tooley is coming. And
Indeed, yes.
She will do a mix of Illustrator and Express as far as I know.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we do have a very, very jam-packed schedule throughout the day with some awesome design. And in fact, there we go, strategically placed on our screen. Sorry, there we go. So again, please do very much stay tuned, because we've got some awesome designs coming up. But I won't say too much, because we'll keep that for a surprise, of course, for what they're working on. But yeah, definitely stay tuned, because some cool stuff. We've also got some questions for you, Melanie, when you're in good ones, though.
Should.
You're in a good place. Shall I throw some stuff at you now? Some questions?
Of course, please.
Cool. So we've got Amy via YouTube. He said, with your current workflow, how long does one piece take to create from conception to completion?
Very good question. And I'm not able to answer the question because it depends. So static things like those happen really fast, and at some point I'm easily satisfied with what I do. For example, the one up here, I'd be happy with that one. I would just maybe add some grains, some noise textures, maybe change the format and everything. And this whole project, once I set it up, I think the graphics take me about maybe an hour, if even. Yeah.
Are you pen to paper? Do you have to sort of draw your things out and?
Sometimes, yeah.
You just got a plan of action, just jump into.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think I'm so used to work with geometric shapes and Illustrator that it's rather easy for me. I think I struggle more with patience again.
Sure.
Just especially if you do illustration, it takes a lot of patience to get to a point where you are ready to work on details.
Sure, I get that.
And I'm switching a lot between projects, so starting from Illustrator to very detailed illustration to all the interactive stuff, which means I always have to start again and get into this workflow. But once I'm there, I'm rather fast.
And plus, obviously, like time frames and deadlines and clients, it's just the days of, you can experiment, of course, when it's maybe side projects, but when you've got a deadline, you got to get the wheels turning, right? It's the way the world is, which I'm sure we can all relate. Cool.
And I love deadlines.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I hate them and love them at the same time.
It kind of makes you have to get things done, right? I get that. I can dig that. Cool. Yeah. Deadline lovers, are you on the chat? Let us know. Do you like the flexibility of just knowing we'll get it done, or do you like to have something in mind? Let us know in the chat.
So the answer could be anything from, I think I always need at least 4 to 8 hours if I start from scratch.
Okay.
And then I could be done, or I start with next steps. You have all the processes where you have design sprints and everything, where you go from ideation, research to all the other steps. That's what I sometimes do if the projects are bigger and more detailed. But with visuals, graphics, and especially static stuff, I can be rather fast.
Nice. And actually, that's a good time to mention that for anyone who's very, watching the chat and very new to, design as a whole, even the Adobe programs, we have some really cool design challenges on Adobe Live, and allows you to kind of follow along with, seasoned pro designers, but get a feel for how they start out, and you can kind of go at your own pace. You can pause, rewatch, create. So yeah, don't be too intimidated by the awesome designs on screen, because again, it's all a starting learning process. So yeah, we've got you covered, right?
Definitely. And I think you always have to start somewhere. So it's not a... Yeah.
Just on that, actually, a question whilst you're in the flow of it. Are you you went to university? Are you self-taught? What's your background in that whilst you're...
So I went to university and studied communication design, graphic design, so very classy. And I always wanted, to be very honest, I always wanted to just work on record covers.
I got that vibe maybe from the 24. I don't know if a vinyl sort of... yeah, okay. That's where it comes from.
This was always my dream. Record covers. I also thought I'd be into packaging, editorial design, and all the stuff that's so, I don't know, it's so classy. It's when you hear design, you think about all those nice pieces of paper that you can print on, but that's not me. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I studied.
The brain and then the heart,
and then I was immediately going the digital way and doing all the interface stuff and. Yeah.
But I guess sometimes you can kind of bring back in elements that you maybe love from when you were kind of starting out into what you're doing now, and I don't know.
I think we're talking way too much. I hope you know that. But what I learned, or what I think, what the most important thing is in design, that you know the basics, that you know how compositions work, that how contrasts work, that there are those design principles that you should know, and from that you can design pretty much anything. Just the format changes. And if you're in a digital space, the format is infinite. But on a print, you know it best. You work a lot with print and editorial designs. You're a bit more limited.
Yeah.
And you have to be very structured. There's
rules and grids and
I admire your work, but I could never do it.
Likewise.
So if I ever take a client job that's about editorial design, I will call you.
Give me a shout. Just put a light in the sky and I'll come running like Batman. Cool. So like you said, let's jump into some design work. Folks are here to see some design. So, and again, I can see some great comments and questions in the chat, and I will definitely throw them to Melanie. But strategically, I'll throw them throughout the stream because we've still got a lot of time. So,
so what we do, we will design a quick. So I try to be quick with this. We design one of those covers for maybe Adobe MAX 2024. I did some examples up here. I will rely on that, but just as you can, so everyone can see how I work. As I mentioned before, I work a lot with the geometric tools that are there. Rectangles are usually the baseline, because once you have a rectangle, you can round the corners and you have a circle.
I like that. The start of any good project, a good rectangle, and then you can work your way from upwards. Cool.
Well, that's what I always tell design students. Everything we do is just shapes.
Yeah, for sure.
Shapes and lines, and that's pretty much it.
I can do that.
So let's start with this one, with this nice grid. Don't have a color. I will quickly color that and turn it into a white grid. The cool thing is, if you use geometric shapes, you can pretty much change everything. Most people know this already. You have the workspace in the middle. This is your artboard, and the other stuff you can change is then in properties on the right side.
Nice.
Very simple and straightforward. I would change the line weight here probably, and then we have a starting point. I love working with grids because once you have this grid, you have something that guides the eye already.
Sure.
Very simple and straightforward. I selected the font already, of course.
Nice.
Adobe
What
fonts.
are we working with? What font type?
Bibas Neue.
No, I had a feeling it was Bibas.
Yeah.
Give me Bibas like vibes. Cool.
It's cool, but for all the type lovers there, I picked them by gut feeling or because it suits a feeling I'd like to communicate. I know so many great typographers who are so much into typography and know the history of everything. And I love listening to the stories, but I'm not the person who's into typography.
That's definitely another stream, isn't it, for any typography lovers. Whilst you're doing it as well, I want to read some really lovely comments as well from the chat. So we were touching on before about deadlines and how folks operate. So we've got Jordan who just said, Deadlines, even self-imposed deadlines, are so needed. Yes, I feel like that's very much the case. We've got Mary who said, hate deadlines, need deadlines. Yes, so it's the love-hate relationship. So yeah, and again, it's great to see folks interacting, getting involved, because again, this is all interactive, right? We want you guys to get involved, which you very much are. So keep them coming.
Yeah, I think deadlines can be very stressful, and I keep going back to that point that I kind of need them, but I'm never at the point at the same time where I'm not stressed.
Life of a creative, no? I think I feel like the balance maybe of the workflow, it's something that you have to, I don't know, I feel like over years you get sharper at navigating, dealing with clients and so forth and timings, but it never gets easier, which is a good challenge, no?
It doesn't. It's a good challenge, but at the same time, sometimes I just wish it would be easier.
Yeah, just sit back, relax, and watch some Max. There we go.
The only thing that helps is knowing that everything will be fine at the end.
Sure.
And it always is.
But even the process, no, in itself. I mean, it depends on what you're working on. Again, each to their own. Packaging, typography, editorial. Sometimes the process is a bit more enjoyable than the final deliverable sometimes. I don't know. Maybe that's my university brain kicking in. Let us know. I don't know. Are you in the chat? Are you more of a process lover than sometimes the final deliverable, or both, or each to their own? Yeah, I'd love to hear. But everyone has their own take on it, which is cool.
I love the process. I love the explorative part. But if I have to, it drove me nuts to export assets. And it's way easier now, we have all the help of all the tools, and depending on what kind of tool you use, it's a lot easier than it was in the past. But still, it's
definitely relate to that.
And I think it's also, I don't even blame the process. It's me not being focused enough, or having too many things on my mind and just exploring things.
I mean, I feel like it's but even now being a guest as well, it's a balance of designing and talking live on a stream and answering questions, which you're amazingly good at. But yeah, it's very much a challenge. But again, it's something that hopefully, folks watch and want to get involved as well. So again, just saying that because there's always opportunity to do some Adobe Lives if you're interested. So always do reach out, and hopefully you can be a guest one day too.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do now is this little visual where we show that we're at Adobe MAX, and that we are going from Adobe MAX to 2024 to 2025, because
we're in the future now. Okay.
After Max is before Max, right? So what we do today, we will finish this week, and then it's all looking at the features of next week. Cool. So what we have here is, I have this grid now with some typography on it. Whenever you design, add some typography, because it's explanatory, and of course it makes the design look more finished already, even if it's not.
Strategic, love it.
Yeah. And we will have a little bit of a progress bar here. Maybe just try to... I prepared all those little thingies up here, and now I'm not using it, but let's see. What I do if I try to create little shadows, for example, is in the past I did this with two shapes, because I was just having one shape and then I moved the other.
And just slightly move it to the edge. Yeah.
What I do by now is, of course, I use the drop shadows, because it makes things more... it makes them more easy to edit, and you have more options at some point. So now everything is, it's rather minimalistic and very clear, but if I want to have a nice gradient or a blurred shadow, I could just, add the blur here and change the whole style of the visual just by adding or changing the drop shadow, for example.
Nice.
It's something I learned because I did a lot of work that was not necessary, because I did not set up the file properly. But if you have to change styles often or want to reuse elements, it makes sense to just set them up properly.
Streamlines your workflow as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. And of course, all the elements we use here, so it's based on geometric shapes, but as mentioned before, it's very easy to just turn them into little rounded corners, and to have everything a bit more flowy.
It's nice to have the sort of balance there of the curved against the kind of, I won't say rigid, but sort of, very sharp angles of the grid behind, which is like a nice balance.
Yeah.
Curved and rigid. Cool. And we've got whilst you're in the flow of that, I don't want to distract you, but can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. So we've got the lovely Karina, who just said, what are your 3 top tips for young creatives? That's a big question, though.
There's so
it's
many
like
things.
one is
online.
difficult, but what's the you got to think of three of them. I can bounce off that as well if you need any.
I can. I would keep going. Don't give up, even if it's not fun at the beginning. Do your own stuff. Do self-initiated projects. Practice a lot because it gives you a feeling of routine, which makes you faster.
True.
Don't try to find your own style at the very beginning. That's probably the most important thing. Everyone is always looking for their own style. Don't just have fun.
You've given us that was more than 3, but I like that. You've given us a few gems there to unpack, and it's great. And again, for anyone who's, that's the beauty of what we do Adobe Live is that we've got a range of folks watching, whether you're just starting out as a student, graduate, or if you're a seasoned creative director or whatnot. We can cater for various levels, which is great. So again, if you're just starting out as a young creative, hopefully some good tips in there. And anyone who's got some advice as well, please share that in the chat. We'd love to hear. From my side, I guess, advice as well. You touched on the idea of trying to find your own style. It's tricky, in a world where it's quite saturated with a lot of different things out there.
Yep.
Trying to carve out your own way, but it's something that takes time. I guess my advice would be to give yourself time to just allow yourself to grow, and you can't really force it. It needs to be organic in some capacity.
Yeah. I think especially in illustration, it's one of the biggest topics to find your own style. But it's also, it's draining if you don't even know what kind of style you like. And then at the same time, there's the big question, do you stick to it? Is this something you keep going with forever? But I could not picture that for myself, for example.
For sure. But even for anyone watching now, I feel like maybe there doesn't need to be a definitive answer. It can be the idea of you have maybe your full-time day job, which is what you do, pay the bills, whatever. And actually, this is where the side hustles come into play, and the side projects where you maybe do what you really love to do. So, yeah, if any side hustlers are in the chat, we give you emoji hearts ourselves because it's always healthy, I think, to have those sort of side projects on the go. So yes, whilst you're doing that and creating some cool stuff, we've got some cool questions coming in the chat as always. We've got Jordan who said, favorite or most used new feature in Illustrator, Melanie?
What a question.
There's so many from the Max. Is there any things that you like, or just stuff in general that is a tool that you your go-to tool a lot?
What I absolutely love is, I'm just using it, is this one here.
Okay.
It's the blend tool, because what we see here, it's very simple and straightforward. I just created 2 lines, and the blend tool blends pretty much everything that's in between them and connects them. You can do that in steps. You can do that in colors. As you've seen here, you have 3 options: specified steps, smooth color, or specified distance, which is cool if you work a lot with geometric and symmetric things, as you can see here. What I'm trying to do is have a little progress bar where we go from 2024 to 2025. But this is not all. What you see here is rather boring because it's just strokes. But if you change the strokes, you will see that
nice, cool.
That's what the blend tool does.
Yeah. It's like we're in overdrive when it comes to next year. We've just gone from 0 to 100 real quick. Okay.
Yeah. And you can have those things, but let me quickly show you because it's a nice thing to show. If you have 2 shapes, you could also blend from one to the other and go from, where is it? Here. Let's go from that one to that one. And you see it does this really nice gradient here.
Cool.
And then, of course, you could edit this and create really nice, abstract shapes.
Nice.
You can also twist this whole thing around. Whoop.
I'm actually quite curious. Whilst you're doing, do you tend to use a tablet pen? Are you more of a hand to mouse? Because sometimes it's tricky on the trackpad now when you're carpal tunnel is a thing. But what's your equipment style for anyone watches?
I use both.
Cool.
If it's something like that, that's very it's more about the composition rather than the illustration. But I do a lot of illustrative work too with a tablet. Then I'm a huge fan of Adobe Fresco because it does pixel and vector art.
Cool.
You can combine both, but yeah.
And you did mention a bit, at the beginning that you like to work with different programs and merge them together. And I think that's the kind of premise of what we do here at Adobe, where we try and, there's loads of different tools for different programs for different things you need. But some of them are quite intuitive in a way where they kind of work in hand. And I know, again, we mentioned in our schedule today, we've got a few Express demonstrations, and we're going to see how we take Illustrator files into Express. I won't say too much because, of course, it's a little secret until later. But yeah, again, it's a very cool thing where you start to work with 2 or 3 different programs, and it's not as scary as it sounds.
Maybe I'll update my choice of favorite tool. I think it depends.
Is it going to change throughout the stream?
Yeah.
You came in the stream with one tool and you left with another.
What I love about it is, I'm using the trackpad here now, and this one is turned out pretty smooth, I have to say. So, surprise, my hands are not too shaky
that's
today.
That's professional level. That's not surprise. Yeah. That's just you.
But awesome. What you can do here is with the pen tool, you can of course smoothen the path, which is really nice in case you're just looking for squiggly.
I know you tried to do two words. That's a word. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's cool though. To have the option between that, and you can play around.
Yeah, and it helps to make things. Even if I'm just doing those little those things here, it helps to just make things smoother. Even if you don't have a trackpad, you just have a trackpad. But if you don't have a pen tool or something.
Sure. Nice.
Okay. So I have this one here. I kind of like it, but I will just leave it here. Since we were talking about the 3 new features that I'd like to show, or the 2 most important ones, plus the mockup tool, which has been here for a while, what you can pretty much do is, and I will start a new output here so we see it better. What you can do is delete everything, make it a shape. We see it better. What you can do, and which helps me a lot with those interface-like designs, is you can pretty much align objects on a path now, nice. Which is very straightforward. If you have, for example, a circle, and you would like to arrange some of those knobs, for example, around it. Let's maybe go for the first one up here, and we say we'd like to use it on this path there. I will copy it now to this area because then it's better visible. Change the color.
It's like your vinyl days now, like your music days.
Yeah. Okay, I can't decide on a color. I have an orange path.
The options, right?
Okay, we just keep that one.
When you're done with that, actually, I'm glad you mentioned colour, because we've got a question about that, but I'll wait until you're in a good place, and then we'll...
Ask now, because I'm just doing redundant
Ask
work.
now, forever hold your peace. Okay, so we've got a great question from YouTube saying, do you have a favourite colour palette that you incorporate into your own designs, or is each design its own colour palette?
I definitely have a preference for black and white, which are not considered colours.
The outfit would suggest different, but it's fine, it's all good, or black.
No, I usually use a lot of black and white and various versions of grey with grains. What I absolutely don't like orange.
Oh, that's a dagger to the heart for any orange.
I know.
Including myself. Really? No.
I don't like it.
Each to their own.
You know what the fun thing is?
Yeah.
I always get back to it because it's really nice in combination with black and white.
True.
So it depends on the...
Contrast.
Yeah, it really depends on what kind of orange it is. But otherwise, blue is always a good option. I love it, and I use it quite often.
There's an entire army of orange lovers in the chat now that's going to go the emoji hate face. I'm kidding. Each to their own. And that was a great question, actually. And let us know in the chat, colour palettes when you're working with your own work. That's a really good question, because it's very subjective. There's different colour palettes, different moods. What's your kind of theory of how you guys in the chat choose your colours? Let us know. We'd love to hear it.
Okay, so now for the first and one of 2-3 features that I'm going to show. It's very easy to align things on a path now, because you pretty much just select what you have and use the tool objects on path here. In case you never used it before and you like to learn about it, click the Learn More button. Everything all the new features are really nicely explained. But if you're a person like me and you're just diving in, you'd use the tool, you immediately see what's highlighted. I hope it's visible on stream.
You zoom in, there we go.
And the items are aligned to it. This one was a rather easy one. This works with very complex shapes. And as you can see, even if you have shapes of different sizes, it's aligned perfectly. But you're not done there. You have, of course, as always, the option to edit those things. As you can see, they are now nicely dancing. Oh, this is really badly visible on stream. But we will have a look at another one later. And you can, of course, exchange them. They keep their distance. And even if you're saying you don't want to have them all around the shape, you can just limit those. It makes things very easy, and it gives a lot of flexibility of a workflow that has been a bit tedious before, but now that's really cool.
I remember when when that was one of the keynote features, my mind was blown when I saw that tool, because I thought, how easy now will your life be in terms of streamlining process. So very cool.
So once we have this one here, I can show it also with a bit more of a complex knob, which did not copy and paste as I intended it. So please, knob, come with me. Yes, I do speak with my designs.
That's cool, that's cool.
Yeah. I speak with the designs and I do fun
Plus
stuff.
the Adobe Live community. I like that. It's like an insight into your mind. It's cool.
Okay, I just need a couple of them. I don't have to, because what I was doing, I was trying to have them, of course, nicely aligned already with the same distance here, which is you just move one and then you use the shortcut Command D, or do the blend tool again, then you would have them next to each other. The thing is, sometimes I don't use geometric shapes, but organic ones. And this tool, as I mentioned before, pen tool, super nice. I will do this fancy now. Whoop. It also works on organic shapes, which means if you have this squiggle here now, you could, oh my God, I'm a little nervous because they're way too big.
The inner perfectionist in you, I could tell. It's just like, I'm the same actually. We gotta make it perfect with the stream.
And you already anticipate what's going to be go wrong.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Keep the positive energy alive.
Okay, but it's the same. You select the items, you click, and they are aligned, as you can see here. We have those little knobs now. As you can see, they're all turned on the path, but you can, of course, also rotate them separately, which is nice.
That's cool.
So now they all turn together, but you can rotate them separately. You can again rearrange them and add things.
Very cool.
So it really works on most elements and items.
We've got a great comment here from Ruth. I'm going to read this out because this is classic. So Ruth just said on via Behance, just 1 week ago, again, I did this manually. Did Adobe read my thoughts? Because this is fantastically needed. So there we go. I mean, I don't know if we have that power yet, maybe in the future. But again, it's great because we do very much try to take on board your feedback, amends, and then obviously we move forward. And yeah, now there's a few updates. And like Melanie said at the very beginning of the stream, make sure you update your Creative Cloud, because that's how you're able to see some of these cool new features.
And of course, I think the new features mainly are also evolve because our workflows are evolving. We are not working like we did maybe a couple of years ago, because we have new styles, we have new things that are interesting, and I think they are always pretty nicely covered in the feature updates.
Very true.
Okay, so I changed to grey now to see the little...
Your favorite color palette? Nice.
Yeah. And now I would have to change that and that. Oh my God. Oh. Okay. Do I just change the shadows? Maybe. But I kind of like the... I stick to what's there now.
Yeah, not orange? No, cool.
Because yeah, everyone who sees my designs and knows that I don't like the color orange too much knows it's a
I actually didn't know about you, to be fair. I've known you for quite a while. I didn't know.
I think the color is keeping me hostage or something.
Orange Christmas birthday present. Cool.
Okay, of course, once you have this path, you can edit it later on too, and arrange the little items on the path. Nothing is ever set forever, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
To move forward, and I will delete this one because it's so easy to reproduce. We also have the option, and I prepared some more squiggles up here.
Oh, wow, cool.
And
You're hiding that from
example.
us. Okay.
Yeah. As you can see, this is my style, all very minimalistic, but one of the new features is the generative shape fill. Did I say that correctly?
Generative shape fill?
Shape fill, object fill. Generative fill on objects. Yes.
The voice from above there.
There are two of them.
Where did that come from? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
So, actually, there's no need to ponder around because there's this little navigation down here, which helps us to know this better. There is generative fill, which generates vectors, and as most people already know, you can have themes, patterns, or separate items or icons. And the new thing is the generative shape fill. And as you can see here, I did a first try because I always try to do, or I test things with things that seem to be impossible for me. And I know an illustration like that would take me quite a while. I would probably struggle with the hand positions. I would have to do some sort of scribble before, also the shading and everything. It would be difficult for me because I work in a very different style.
Sure.
But generative fill helps me to create various styles, which you can see here, and shows me which options are possible. It helps me with the composition. And for example, now I have just this squiggle, which could be a bigger part of a bigger illustration. I can somehow fit it into that shape, which is pretty cool because sometimes I create things and then you still know something is missing.
Sure.
But you're not really sure what it is, and this helps you just with inspiration. And as you can see here, we have 3 very different options. One where you have 2 hands that are somehow from the side, 2 very symmetric ones, and I can have the different style options. This would be how I use it, just as an inspiration and just to move forward. But let's have a look on how to do that. You pretty much just use the generative shape fill. And for anyone who's been bothered a bit by this little navigation here, because it's jumping around with me, you have all the options here to reset the bar position, to pin the bar position, or to get more help. You're covered. Pretty much anything you can do in Illustrator is first of all explained really well, which makes me happy as a UX designer. Nice. And the other thing is you're never lost because pretty much you have all the info there.
Nice.
But going back to the generative shape fill, once you click it here, you immediately get the option to type in a prompt here. Prompts have been a bit discussion point because no one really knows how to use them. Just give it a try. Prompt something that you think works, and if it doesn't work, you just give it another try.
Sure.
So first, prompt input, but this also works without prompt input, of course. You have the option to change the shape, strength, and detail. We're going to have a look at that, which means you can see it in the little preview there. You have a very minimalistic and abstract drawing, or something that's very detailed. And you can change that here and edit that. So in best case, we create something that fits the style of my illustrations.
Sure.
Then, of course, you have the other option here, which is the style reference, which again helps me to be closer to my own style and get more inspiration about it. And then, of course, you have more settings, which opens this little window, and it's sometimes a better overview of what you can do. If you don't know what to do, you can open or close suggestions here. This is for anyone who's trying this for the first time.
It's a very cool feature, though, just to have that visual parallel to when you're kind of, adapting to these different elements, because sometimes your brain needs to have an idea of what it could be before you even do it. So this is a great starting out point, especially for new designers or folks who are very new to the software.
Definitely. Shape strength, as mentioned before, defines how detailed or abstract your suggestion is going to be. Then you have the detail here. We have maximum. I will go to minimum. Should we go to maximum first or minimum?
Yes, mix it up.
Let's do more. Let's go to mid shape strength and a maximum of detail. Style references, we will try that in the next step. You can, of course, select effects again, which means you will have a very flat design, which is close to a minimalistic one, something that's geometric or in a doodle style. Again, it's a lot of inspiration and things to try out. I think we will now just generate something to have a look at what's coming up.
Sure. Whilst you're doing that as well, it's a nice time to mention we are approaching that final 10 minutes. And if you have just joined us, a massive welcome. And today we have the very awesome freelance experience designer and artist, Melanie David. And we are, David, got it correctly?
Both is fine,
Both is fine? Cool, that's my English twang. So again, we are in the flow of Illustrator working on some cool geometric objects. So if you have just joined us, massive welcome. And again, for the final 10 minutes, any questions you have for Melanie, please do put those in the chat.
So what we just did is we generated a red flower in a very detailed style. as you can see here, you always get 3 options, and if you do not like it too much, you can change it. I think this one it looks pretty cool. I don't like the color too much. This one is a bit lost, but yeah, I think this one is pretty cool. I actually like the one in the middle best. It's defined, and you see that cool. It's a flower, but it has this amount of detail that I was looking for.
That's quite cool. We've got it. Sorry, no, go for it, please.
And you can, of course, you have a shape, and the flower fits into it, but you can, of course, delete the shape after you're done and edit everything, because this is a vector graphic, which means you're an illustrator and you have infinite options. As much as I'm
no, you actually read the mind of one of the comments that I was going to read you to. Literally, someone asked, can you edit quite easily the generated vectors, which you literally just explained.
Yes.
So there we go.
Yeah.
You're reading the minds of the folks here, so good for it.
Yeah, that's why I'm a designer.
That's the special power on your LinkedIn profile. Cool.
Okay, so we have this one here, and let's maybe add, since this is a generative shape fill, let's use the pencil tool and add a flower here. Whoop. This is going to be too big, and it's going to look weird from a composition perspective, but yeah, let's try it. I will change the color again, pick something from what we got already, it's a bit closer, and generate another red flower. Okay, let's have a look at the details here and change the prompt a bit. Red flower. Okay, let's stick to the autumn colors.
Okay.
I missed out that we used that in the prompt. That's why it is. That's why it looks like autumn and not as red as I want it to be. Okay. We go back a bit with the shape strength, and we do a very minimalistic style, no reference yet, and generate it again.
I was saying, this is quite a fun part though, when you press the generate button and you don't know what's going to come next. It's like the Kid at Christmas kind of moment. You're just waiting out. And yeah, exciting.
And this is just flowers. I tried it with many other things, as you've seen with the hands, musical instruments. So a lot of various options, and it's always giving me a cool result that I can work with in my own designs. This is very minimalistic now. I think we should have, let's maybe give it another try. I think we should have used a style there.
As a reference?
Yeah, let's drop that one. I don't like it too much.
It goes on the pasteboard if it forgets. Once on the pasteboard, we have no need for it. That's hilarious.
Okay, let's have a look there. Now we go to the effects. Let's say minimalistic or isometric or flat design.
The options.
Should we go for pixel art?
Yeah.
Red flower.
Treat yourself. Let's go for nice
colors.
pixel.
And we want a lot of detail.
Yeah.
And medium shape strength. Okay.
Let's see what it pops up with. We've got a few questions. Well, actually, it was more for in general. So folks are asking where are we streaming from, and we are streaming from the Munich office in Germany. But of course, Adobe MAX is in the full swing, which is in Miami. So you have the benefits of both worlds watching this in Munich, but also straight after a few streams, we can be in Miami too. So hopefully it answers your question. That's a cool pixel.
I really like it.
Yeah. Like 8-bit kind of Super Mario style.
Also that one that doesn't have this little stem, it fits perfectly.
My brain went into like Pokemon gym badge.
Yeah.
Sorry, geeky moment. Yeah, cool.
Okay, let's add this one here too, because it happened, so we just keep it in the design. Let's add up here. I sometimes, when I create things, I don't like too much. I still want to give it a try and make it work.
The determination in you is just like, I'm not defeated yet. I'm gonna.
So if I'm talking about typography and someone is like, "Can you use Comic Sans?" Like, you're daring.
Just drop that in there. Like.
Yeah, you're daring to ask me, and I was like, "I will show you." Yes,
I almost missed that comment just then.
Yeah.
My ears pricked up when you said Comic Sans.
Okay, so we can have different styles, and the last thing I will try is, which it's always a surprise what you get, of course, is with everything that's. Oh.
You went off piece.
Yeah.
Nice, on off paste.
Okay, let's try again. See, that's me knowing that we're approaching the final minutes. Let's fill this again, but let's use a a style reference now.
Cool.
And what you can do is, you see, I just picked style reference, and now I could pick one of those, which is easy because, well, they are generated, so there's a clear prompt behind. I could, of course, add separate elements. See, that's where my multitasking ends. It's like, where
it ends. You did a great job. It's all good.
Okay, so you can select separate single elements, but you could, of course, also, which is not that visible immediately, but you could also, what's a good example? Let's maybe stick to that. I don't know what's going to happen, but we use it. What you can do is you can use this little
nice, like lasso tool style, isn't it?
Tool, yeah, and then it picks everything, and you see your reference up here.
It's very cool.
Just click and drag, and you will have it. Style reference, detail minimum, effects, color and tone. We just generated and hope that that Firefly is.
That's hilarious. But it's very cool to sort of, I mean, we've got our very final, 4 minutes before the stream closes. But again, it's very cool to sort of see the various elements and the things we can explore, which is really cool, especially for folks starting out.
Okay, I have to say, that's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's really good. That's more, I will compliment Firefly, it's better than I expected. This is actually pretty cool.
Okay. I like that middle one, actually. That was pretty out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of them. I can use all of them, and I will use all of them.
Nice.
Because we could then just drag them into our little designs we have here and use them again.
Nice.
And I will keep the background because then I can just overlay it in a very lazy way now.
Effective way. Yeah, we'll replace the word lazy with effective.
That's so kind of good. I will keep that in mind forever.
That's my inner host vibes there.
Yeah. We're very effective today. Thank you, Q.
You're welcome.
So, and we could just add that as an element in our graphic.
And I can see some really lovely comments, which is great. We love to hear about them, especially from Oliver, who just said some really cool stuff I've been learning. I hope to make these myself in the apps. And of course, I'm sure you would. And also, we always love to sort of see what you folks create. So again, if you haven't already, always make a Behance profile to see what's out there, what other creatives are working on in different communities. And it's nice to sort of see your work as well and see what you've done with the tools.
So I could integrate that now in my design. Just make this disappear a little bit, make it look a bit more okay. So it
Decorative, nice.
Yeah. Pen tool again. Oh, wrong one. Pencil tool, actually. That's why it did not work. I said pen tool. I used the pen tool, but what I'm looking for is the pencil tool.
I can see the confusion there. It's fine. It's an easy mistake to make.
Okay. Oh, no, I really don't like it. So, okay. I will keep that here. I would edit that, of course, have a bit more of the black around here, cover things up. But yeah, I think Firefly did a really great job.
Yeah. It's great to see the options as well, right? If you're not happy with one, you can mix them up. And again, you mentioned we can just keep on generating until we're happy with what we really want.
Very true. Just hit the generate button again. And as you see, you have the options here. Last thing, because it fits the generative ideation tool. Wait, give me a second. Is the recoloring, because sometimes I like to change things and nothing is more easy than recoloring here. So you go to edit colors and recolor artwork. You have this nice panel here, which gives you the option to pretty much select colors. I know we have this very detailed pixel art design now. That's why it's going to be a bit difficult to just minimize the colors, but you could pretty much change all the colors here.
Very cool.
I will not reduce the colors. We reset it and use the generative recolor art because it's the other option.
Nice.
Pick one of those. It makes more sense for this design.
Cool. We're approaching that final minute.
Final minute.
The beauty of the countdown clock. But we've definitely unraveled a lot. And I think when you're in a good place, we'll shop.
Yeah. I think I'm not happy with the blue. I would change the blue, but
Off stream, you'll start changing. Behind the scenes, you'll start changing.
I have all afternoon. I will just go and edit everything.
I love that. Well, I mean, thanks for sort of showing us the various. I mean, there is a lot to unpack, but even so, I mean, the beauty of rewatching the streams, doing it at your own time. So thank you for everyone joining, and of course, thank you, Melanie, for being my guest.
Thank you for being the best host.
I paid her to say that. So again, friends, up next we're going to have our very own product marketer Ashton, and also we'll be hosted by the lovely Clara. So stay in touch. Stay tuned, I should say, and we'll see you shortly. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Hi, Adobe community. We are back live in our Munich studio as part of day 3 for Adobe MAX. I'm Clara Galan. I work on the community team here at Adobe, and I'm excited to be joined by Anton from our Premiere and video team. Anton,
Yes,
how's
hi.
it going?
Good. Exciting. Day 3.
Day 3, I know so much has happened so far. We've had so many new updates that we've seen in the keynote and on day 1 and 2. What have been some of the highlights for you so far?
I think my highlight is always, because like we kind of know what's coming. So my highlight is to just see reactions. Like we were watching the keynote with some community folks here in Munich, and it was just awesome to see how everybody's reacting, to go on social to see it. And yeah, just to see come alive what like all our teams were working on for a long, long time.
It's amazing to see everything come to fruition too. And I know you've been behind the scenes working on the product roadmap, messaging. So it's really cool to see everything come to life.
It
during
really
MAX.
is, yeah.
And for those who are tuning in, we are live in the Munich studio as part of day 3 for Adobe MAX. So we're live in the chat. So if you're on YouTube or Behance, go ahead and post in the chat where you're joining us from. And if you have any questions at all, we'll be sure to get to those. So I'm looking here in the chat. We have some folks joining in from all over the world. We have some hi Antons from Robert and from Caroline and Oliver. And also have people joining in from North Central Florida, Fiji Islands,
early.
Germany, Sweden, UK. So thanks all for joining us. But we're going to share some first takes in Premiere Pro, which has just been launched at Adobe MAX. So Anton, let's go ahead and dive right in.
Yeah, let's go. There is so much to show, and we have a lot of time to do it. The best way always for you to get up to date is checking out the What's New page on our helpX documents. It's just a summary of what's been happening. It tells you how to update Premiere Pro and like some best practices. And then we have all the good stuff from the properties panel to refresh and modern design and so on and so on. And then there's also pages kind of talking more about the beta. Maybe a good thing to kind of get straight in the beginning. There's 2 versions of Premiere Pro. One's the beta. It's getting updated almost every kind of night. So every other day there's a new version. And then the production version, which is updated every like couple weeks, couple months. The beta version always gives you access to everything that's new, everything that's cooking, everything that's kind of work in progress. Whereas the other one is really designed to be as stable as possible for you to do all the work for your clients, where time really matters, where stability really matters. So you kind of the stable product on one hand, and then the beta product where everything is getting in and you can like be one of the first folks to ever see new stuff. And in this case, we look at both because both have some new things.
Yeah, it's really cool to see, and especially, being a part of the beta, some of the things that we're working on behind the scenes at Adobe before it comes to market. It's great to get, first access.
Yeah, and then also feedback. Like wherever we have something new, we post on social and on our Adobe community. And then if you check it out and there's something not really working for you, then let us know. That's the perfect timing. And then once it gets into the release, it's as best as can be. So now what we have in the beta, it's kind of a mix of small things and big things. There are small things like if you create a new project, we have this new little, like as I said, like sometimes it's the little things. We have this new modal where you can create a project and you can now skip the import mode. For those of you who want that, you can also directly go into any deep templates. There is a couple that we provide, like the broadcast template, the social media template, and you can also create your own. Like if you have a client and they always have the same assets, the same aspect ratios, the same sequence settings and stuff, you can save this as your template, share with others if you like, and then always start from there without like having to build your project from scratch every single time. And then what I really like, and some of you may have seen this in After Effects already, we have this in After Effects for like a year. We now have a properties panel in Premiere Pro as well. So whenever you select a clip, there's a couple options you have on the right side where you used to have to go to like various menus to get to there, like the effects menu or essential sound. And so you have some high level settings in there already to kind of reduce the amount of clicking and mouse mileage and stuff like that. So you can go in, and if you want to move a clip, you just do it in the properties panel as you would expect. You can also, which I really like, you can also select more than one. So if you do that, you can move them all over. That's much, much, much easier, much, much faster than before.
Yeah.
And you can also crop. You can crop directly in the properties panel. And you can also now crop directly in the source and program monitor as well. That's properties panel. So depending on what you select, you get different options. For a video, it looks like that. For sound, it's currently just the volume. And then for graphics, and I think we have one over here, we moved all the things from the graphics panel into the properties panel, just so it's easier to navigate, because everything's in one place. And if you have the properties panel open, like I have right now, you get to like probably 70, 80% of everything. And then you can still go to effect controls and have like everything you're used to. That didn't change, but it kind of makes it easier to have everything in one place.
That it seems so much more seamless and easier to select everything at once and be able to move more quickly through. I have a comment here from Jane Bradbury, says, I love the properties panel in Premiere Pro. Thanks, Jane. And I'm seeing some more people joining in. We have from India, from Rhode Island, France, and Mallorca, and Pakistan. And from the Netherlands. So everyone,
cool.
Thank you for joining
across
in.
time zones around the world. That's awesome. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. That's properties panel. I really like it. And there's also something that you're kind of used to in all other Adobe applications. And now we have it in Premiere Pro as well. So that working in After Effects, in InDesign, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, whatever it is, it kind of feels similar. One aspect of this is things should also look similar. And that's the next update we have. We have a redesigned and modernized UI. It looks super similar. So most of this is really in like the details, the small things, just to make sure that wherever you are in each Adobe application, it feels the same, it looks the same. And it's also we have no room reaction, but please tell me in the chat what you think about that.
Let's see.
We now have light mode in Premiere Pro. Which
I love the sound effects.
Which if you're now in a dark room, sorry for kind of blinding you. But this makes so much sense in a lot of use cases. It gives you different contrast. If you're like in a high, like if you're in sunlight outside, it makes it so much easier to actually see your timeline, see everything instead of like having everything dark and then reflections on the screen. You can, of course, set it to whatever you want. There's dark, which I had before. There's also darkest. If you're like in a really dark room, like color grading, finishing environment, you can also go to darkest. And now new is the accessible color contrast, which you can toggle, and it just change. Maybe you can see, I hope you can see it on screen, like the text and the background, and then further apart, so more contrast for anyone who prefers it or who needs it for whatever reason. I heard a lot of people who said like, actually, like I have no vision impairment, but still it's better for me. So this, you can choose this whatever you like. Darkest, dark, be careful, light.
Very light.
And they all have the accessible color contrast switch as well.
That's so great. And it makes it so much more accessible, you know, depending on your preference. We're seeing a couple mixed comments in the chat. So if you're joining in and have questions, go ahead and post those across YouTube and Behance. We have Feather says, I'm going to stick with the dark mode anyway. That's great.
Fair.
We have those options there. And then Paul says, fantastic having light and dark mode. So great to have those both. And we also have a comment from Lima Katso, who says, these updates are going to make editing so much easier for me as they look and feel native, even to After Effects too.
Yeah.
So, good to know.
And that's our goal. I mean, it's about new features, obviously, that really revolutionize the way you can edit, and we'll come to that in a second. Stuff like performance, obviously each release has to be more stable, more performant, less bugs, and so on. That's something we're working really hard on. And then all these small things that just make the day-to-day a little easier. And if they save you a minute per hour, a minute per day, or just like some heart rate per day, if we can make that better, that's awesome.
We have a couple questions in here first, but maybe we'll dive into the next workflow before answering some of the questions.
We can. The next thing is color management. It's something super technical. It's something where a lot of you in the community, like I see so many questions about it. There's so much complexity to it. At the same time, like if you're an editor and you're not a studied colorist, like you kind of need to handle this, although you may not have the technical knowledge. And I honestly, like I'm come from editing and I did some color grading before, but it's not my specialty. So even I'm like, I need Premiere Pro to take care of my color because I don't have the details to really tweak everything to the latest detail. So now in beta, again in the beta version, we have the new Premiere Color Management. And that's really a new way to handle color in Premiere Pro and to do as much as possible in the backend automatically without you seeing it. At the same time, you have still all control about what's happening. So what you can do, I have this timeline here. It's a mix of like ARRI footage and Canon footage and Sony footage. And I think DJI is in there as well. And you can see that it's automatically all being not color corrected, color managed, and tone mapped to my color space. In the default, if you open the beta with any project, old or new, it'll be direct 709. So everything will be interpreted at 709 in ingest, and then your timeline 709 as well, your export as well. Just to see how it used to look, like if you put stuff in, it's all that like raw, gray, log kind of style that we used to. And then we used to need to go in and apply a LUT and like go to Canon, go to ARRI and download their LUT and then put it in. It's just been a ton of work. So now we're working with these companies directly to put this into Premiere Pro. Obviously, you can still do it if you want. Like if you have your LUT that's always working for this particular camera you have and you just wanted to use this LUT for a reason, you can still do it. We didn't take anything away, but now you can set it to either Direct 709 or the other presets we have, and Premiere Pro will take care of all the color for you without kind of taking away any settings from you. So this would be the default. If you want to do more color work indirectly in Premiere Pro, like color grading or more color correction, you can go to Wide Gamut, including the tone mapping, and that's now a wider color space that you can use inside of Premiere Pro to shift stuff around, do more with the highlights. And it's a subtle change sometimes. Sometimes you don't even see it at all when switching, but then when you do something to it, you can see that you have so much more space because literally the space in which the colors are living in the application is now wider, which means you have to do a little bit more to handle it, but it gives you more control and more flexibility than ever before.
Wow, it's really amazing to see those improvements. And I know there were some questions specifically to color in the chat. So I'm hoping that answered that there. And we have some other comments on, again, that light mode. Constantine says, light mode makes it much easier to work outside. And many people in the chat agree.
Nice, I agree.
That's great to hear. And I'm looking in here too. Let's see. And yep, if there are any other questions on this, I think we can dive into some of the other new updates.
Yeah, we can. One last thing before we move on. If you haven't seen this isn't new, but it's still newish. So if you haven't seen this before, in Lumetri, you have the same tools as ever before, and you also have the settings tab next to it, and you can go through all the settings in one place. So there's this app level preference thing where I actually see I haven't, shame on me, I haven't applied display color management, which you always should do. I didn't because I updated my version last night and I deleted all the preferences to be ready for the stream, so shame on me. And then also we want to see dynamic range in the monitor. The display color management is basically making sure that on my MacBook screen here, the color is as accurate as possible. Then you can do some transmit stuff if you need it. Then there are settings on the project level. like HDR settings, LUT interpolation, the viewer gamma, and you can also, which I think you should always do, auto detect log video color space. And you can also, if you want to, you can change the viewer gamma from broadcast, which is the industry standard, to web or QuickTime, if you need that for your clients. And then you can, both on the source clip, set the color space manually if it's not kind of detected automatically. And you can see there's Apple, there's Arri, Canon, Fuji, DJI, Leica, Nikon, and so on. And then the more you dive in, the more kind of you can do. Color setup, as I said, there's six templates, 6 settings, plus the disable color management that you can play around with and choose the best one. And then there's advanced options for everything. So you can totally control all the color now, and it's just a much better experience and much, much more accurate.
That's great to see all of those different controls, and it's never too late. It's okay that you did it today.
Absolutely.
So I'm seeing a lot of excitement in the chat for this. And there was one question, maybe we can get into this later, about from Kevin regarding, in another session, they shared Premiere Pro has templates for social media videos.
Yep.
Can you show where you can find them in Premiere Pro?
Absolutely. So in this new project creation dialog, if I go to template and then to social media template, and let's skip import mode just for the sake of time, then I get a new project with all, as you can probably see, all these sequences being there for you. So you have Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, TikTok, X, YouTube. So for example, let's do Instagram Reel. Then it gives you these overlays. It's kind of a small thing, but then also it isn't, because it's so helpful, because like I just forget about it. Like I forget, oh yeah, you have like, for example, this bar on the right, it's always higher than I think. So this is super useful. And you can just put in your footage and then disable these layers. So it's basically 2 different layers. Plus also, which I really like there is captions presets. So you can use this style. If you like, you can also use that style, depending on what kind of content you have. And yeah, it's the same for TikTok and so on. Yeah, that's really simple, but really helpful. And you can always go back to it. You can also pull these into your template. So whatever you want, you can definitely do it, but that's how you have it.
That's great to see, and very time-saving too, if you need to get something quickly up to social. So Kevin says, wow, thanks so much for showing this. So we're glad that it was helpful. We also have Keys back in the chat. So thanks for joining in. We have Robert, Jane, and Ruth, and Ruth says, oh, the overlays are so good. So that's good. Awesome. Let's see. We have a couple other questions, but I think we can get to those after kind of diving into the next workflow.
Yeah, the next one is, and I'm so excited again, and still, the next one is generative extend. I hope you all saw the keynote and you saw our announcements. Generative extend lets you extend your footage and your sound by up to 2 seconds, either in the beginning or the end. And yeah, let's just look at one example that I, like in my previous filmmaking life, I had all the time. And I think everybody can agree and can resonate with that. Let's just look at it.
It's amazing. Big gap there.
So it's all building up, like you heard the sound, like everything's perfect, but there's this gap and we don't have any footage because we forgot to shoot it, or something went wrong, or like the storage, something happened. The memory card got lost, whatever it is. The only thing we have is this shot of our astronaut looking. So what we can do now is there's a new tool in the toolbar. That's the generative extend tool. So we hit it, and then if you use it the first time, it's giving you a little prompt with like the user guidelines and so on for like Gen AI in our apps I agree. And then I can pull this piece of footage and extend it to the next one. And it's exactly working like, and maybe even before we do it, if we take our normal tool, you would see that there is like literally nothing going on. There is no space. So we are extending, and just if it were there in the first place, we're pulling it and extending. There's a new screen with a lovely gradient, colorful gradient. It's gonna take a while. You can also continue working, so you're not blocked while doing this. You can also check out the progress here. What it's basically doing is it's sending the last few frames of your clip to the cloud, and then it's doing a extension and predicting what the next 2 seconds could be and should be. And it's also always trying to give you, like someone said, like it's like a low drama extension. Like we don't want to, like if he's just turning slowly, we don't want anything sudden to happen, anything that's disrupting. So just a subtle extension with the movement that's already happening. It takes a while, as you can see. So it needs to upload, it needs to think, it needs to download. What you can also do is, we don't have it in this case, but you can also extend sound. So if you have a room tone in an interview or like a background sound of any sort, you can also extend this as well. And this even works for more than just 2 seconds.
That's great. And as we're waiting for it to generate, we have a question from Constantine asking, for how long is it possible to extend a clip?
It's currently 2 seconds.
Great.
Or less, and both in the beginning and the end of a clip.
Great. And let's see. Christian asks, how do you switch on the generative extend tool? I have all the Premiere updates and I don't see it in the toolbar.
Okay, if you don't see it, then retry updating. Like go back to your Creative Cloud desktop app and then hit the check for updates button. Oh, it's giving me an error message.
The joy of live.
The joy of live streaming.
We can try it again.
We can try it again.
We do have some people in the chat, though, that have used it.
Yes.
And Emma says, generative extend seems like it will be very helpful for grabbing those last few frames sometimes needed in an edit. Absolutely. And Paul says that it has been a game changer for him. So great to see how you've been using it. And like you said, Anton, especially if you didn't have that footage or just need to fill in that gap, it's amazing to see how Firefly can generate, within the exact same style and image of the clip.
Totally. And yeah, stuff can always happen. There can be some different reasons why it didn't work. Like our team has extended this very clip, I think 2,000 times, and it always worked well.
Of course, right when you're live.
it's always the joy of doing live demos. But yeah, like check it out, use it. You can use it just in your beta app. There will always be cases where it doesn't really work. And in these cases, please tell us. You can always go in. Oh yeah, we need to wait for the extension, but you can go in and then right click and then say good output or bad output. And if it doesn't work, then please let us know. So this is the first time we get this out for the public to test, and it can only, like that's the worst version it's gonna be, basically. So with your feedback, we can make it even better.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any questions or feedback, I mean, we're live here in the studio. So if you have those, go ahead and post them in the chat and we can answer them. But, as Anton mentioned, our team is constantly receiving this feedback, having it influence the product roadmap and how we're tweaking, different changes. So it's great to see there. There is one question from Feather here about how people could potentially use generative extend. So I think there have been some concerns at times from the community about licensing, using it in a way that's commercially safe. Can you speak to that? Absolutely.
All we do with Firefly is always designed to be commercially safe. That means it won't, like it's trained on licensed content and public domain content where copyright expired. And it's done in a way that it doesn't violate any other rights, like trademarks, brand names, and so on and so on. And it's, as I said, it's not we are not training by scraping the internet and just pulling everything in. It's just on on content that we license, which really is a safe version for you to use commercially without any doubts.
That's great.
And there's also a great FAQ page, and maybe we can link it in the chat, and maybe Tim, about like there's an FAQ document on adobe.com really talking about each of these things, like how's the training going, how was the rights topic, and so on. So even like I had so many people ask me like, hey, my clients are asking me what's up.
Right.
So
Can they use it for
that's a great
commercially safe?
resource for you to talk to your clients, because I'm not a lawyer, you are not one, and you probably aren't either. So we all need something reliable that we can look at and link to, and that's perfectly it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were lucky. Our second try worked.
Great. Let's see it.
Let's check it out.
Wow, this transition is so seamless.
Each and every time, you can see, like, it does tell you this part is AI generated. And while we are scrubbing from real to AI generated, it's so seamless, and it's capturing the movement, the lighting, and like if you look at this little wind thingy, it turns exactly the same way. Like you have this piece of cloth like moving in the wind, exactly the same way. And yeah, I'm every time I'm not surprised, but really excited by how well it does.
Yeah.
And now, yes, what I mentioned before, if you right click the AI generated part, you can generate again, which I just did when it failed. And then you can say good output, poor output. And we are looking at the data. We're not looking at your examples. We can't do that, but we're looking at the data. And if you all tell us it's great, that's good feedback. And if many of you tell us, no, actually, there's stuff it can do better, then this is super valuable for us. So in this case, I'm saying good output. I can, if I want, include the reference media. You don't have to. And yeah, it matches, it's seamless, it's consistent, it's great. And we hit submit, and that's it.
And that's great to help, to continue to educate Firefly and Machine to make sure that we have better outputs, of course.
Yes and no. You're helping us as a product team making the decision whether it's ready for beta and for release. We are never training with this.
Oh, okay, that's
So
good to know.
we are not learning from your stuff. We're just, as I said, like only learning from licensed material. So if you even send this to us and say, hey, this example was bad, then we will never use this to train.
Good to clarify that point. And there was a couple questions too on just AI in general. So we have, some concerns about, this being impactful in the workforce and, with creatives and with videographers. And one of the things, I can share here at Adobe is everything that we're creating is to really help your workflows as creatives and make sure that they're more seamless and that you're saving time, but never ever replacing the work that you do just as a company. Can you speak to that at all, just from the product standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exactly that. All tools we have with Firefly, they're either on the like ideation concepting phase, like image to like text to image, also text to video now, and image to video. And then really on the like solving problems that just were either impossible or super hard to solve. Like, of course, I could do, it's already a slow motion. I could do even more slow motion and try to stretch it. And maybe it works. Maybe if I record it at like 120 FPS, maybe it works. It probably doesn't. I can do stuff like, a few still frames, I can stretch it. It's just very finicky, and maybe it works, but often it doesn't. And especially with the movement that I get, it's solving an issue that so many of us were facing with every single or every other project. And it's not replacing something that you work for creatively. It's really solving a problem that many people have. No matter if it's documentary or like event, commercial stuff. And then all the other tools we have, like generative remove in Lightroom, generative fill in Photoshop, that's all examples for stuff where it's really solving a real world issue by just taking the power of AI in, I think, a very responsible and ethical way. And And then we have the whole separate layer of content credentials and really tracking, like this was made with AI, this was made using this and that. So it's really helping you as a tool. And it will never, and it's what I think personally as well, impact the true creativity of an artist.
That's really well said. And I think seeing some comments in the chat here in agreement. And also Rich says this is great for transitions length too. So if you want to be able to extend the transitions within your footage, it's very helpful there. One last question too, and I know we touched on this a little bit. So to the point of when you give feedback, it's more directly for the product team, just making sure that the product is ready. And then the other point of clarification is how the model is trained. So as you mentioned, Anton, it's licensed content and public domain content that Adobe has access to. It's not scraping the internet for anything that we don't have access to. But if there's anything, Marcus says, what exactly is sent to Firefly, when you put in that prompt, the selected clip or more the timeline for a good context for generating those extra frames?
Yes, good question. It's always taking the last couple seconds, like 1 to 2 seconds of the clip and nothing else. So it's not sending the whole timeline. That wouldn't be efficient as well. It's sending the last few pieces of your clip to then best predict what should happen in the end. Obviously, there can be cases where the last 2 seconds aren't really working well, and then you need to figure out, like, maybe there's another trim point that works better. But yeah, it's sending the last portion of your clip, it's doing the generation, it's giving back the result, and then deleting your clip. So it's never training on that. It's also never training on any content you have here. So it's not, it can see this clip, for example, it will never train on that.
Good to know. And I think that's really important then when you stop the transition piece, of course, so that it kind of has that accurately. There's some questions around, will AI tools be coming into After Effects?
It's a really good question. I mean, AI in general, we have. Stuff like Roto Brush is totally AI. It's not generative AI. And we are always looking at what more we can do. As you can see, like, it's going step by step by step. We started Firefly 1.5 years ago, I think.
It seems like it's been so much longer than it has been. Yeah,
a long and short time at the same time.
Yeah.
And now, like, we went to Photoshop then to Lightroom and Illustrator, now Premiere Pro, and we are cooking up way more stuff than that. But yeah, it's really going step by step and making sure that the problem we solve with it is something that many of you have, and it's actually useful. If you have ideas, and I think this person has some, then let us know. Let us know here. Let us know in the Adobe online community. Any place you can find us, let us know, because that's what we need. Like, we need your feedback. We need your wish list of things that you want to see.
Absolutely. And that question was from Paul. So Paul, if you have ideas for how we could bring it into After Effects, or, how Firefly can help your workflow, go ahead and put that in there. I'm checking the other channels as well. So again, we are streaming from our Munich studio as part of day 3 of Adobe MAX. If you have any questions throughout some of our first takes for Premiere Pro, go ahead and post them in Behance and YouTube. And I'm looking here as well. Let's see. Oh, some questions about the Firefly video model and access to that. So maybe we can touch on that in a bit. But maybe we can move on to the next portion.
Yeah, I think the next portion is exactly that.
Perfect timing.
It's a Firefly video model and the generate video beta that we have running now, and we announced just at Max. To answer your question, at least some part of it, at this page, that you can also link in the chat, I think, that's the best way to sign up for it. There's a wait list. We'll be letting people in, like, portion by portion. So the earlier you join, like, join now, and then you get access as soon as possible. You hit join the waitlist, you log in with your Adobe ID, and then we'll let you know once it's ready. I don't know how much time it'll take. It's depending on different things. But yeah, the sooner you're in, the sooner you're in.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of anticipation here too. If you can catch the the on-demand keynote from day one of Max, we did sneak, some of the new features with Adobe Firefly Video. And so, as Anton mentioned, go ahead and sign up on the waitlist as soon as possible so you can get access. But rolling it out little by little.
Exactly. And it's really like I got access to this, I think, 2 months ago. And like every single day, I love playing with it so much. And not just playing, like really using it for my purposes. And if you saw the examples, and it's also on the same page, we see it as a use for different kind of types of work. One is, and that's something that I can really relate to, is to communicate your creative vision or like share your creative intent. For example, I'm not a motion designer. I'm not an artist. I really struggle to explain to someone what I would love to see in a video. Like if I'm a creative director, I need to, like, we spent so much time back and forth in my previous life between different types of jobs and roles, like using words or like little sketches to say, like to describe a complex thing, like an animation or compositing. What I can now do with Firefly Video is I can prompt something and then give it to a person who can actually make this work for me and make it fully customizable. Like we all know how we are, how our clients are. Like it's not enough to have a sketch because they will say, oh, but then at like frame 21, I need this to be a little bit more left. That you can't do with this model. You still need, and like back to our earlier point about like artists and work, you need someone who's an expert in motion design, expert in 3D animation and so on. But what I can do now is I can prompt something from the back of my head and I can retry and I can make improve my prompt until I have someone where I say this is ready enough for someone to then start the real work. That's one. Then also, we'll look at some examples in a second that still blow my mind, to be honest. It's in a similar situation that we had here. Like there is a little gap in the timeline. There's just a little bit missing. So yeah, like we have this documentary or explainer YouTube style content, and there's just one shot we don't have because we didn't get it. It got lost. It wasn't good enough, or for whatever reason. That's something where you can go in now and then get this one shot to complement your footage. And we look at, like, I love this example. It's amazing, and we'll look at some more in a second. And then we have stuff like little effects, little smoke, an explosion, lens flare, or like these fun flames that go around the dancer. You can prompt this, and then in this case, the dancer's reel. It's a real video from Adobe stock, and then the flames are from Firefly. And you can stitch it together with like blend modes in Premiere Pro. You can go even deeper in compositing in After Effects and kind of combine the different worlds of real and AI. And yeah, it also says again, which we already covered, designed to be commercially safe, is content for which we have the permission to train on. It's never on your user content. We can look at some of the examples, and I brought my personal best of the things where I think like it did a really good job. It kind of illustrates the kind of things you can do. Let us start with a B-roll. Like let's say we're making a video about the Arctic or about like glaciers and mountains, whatever. Like in this area, we want a video where like an avalanche is rolling down a mountain towards us, and it's something that I don't want to shoot in real life. I think it's a really bad idea.
You want to be there right in front.
I don't think I should. So let's have Firefly do it for us. And it's even covering the lens in the last frame.
Yeah.
And that can make a perfect transition. The prompt, by the way, is tiny. Like there's no this huge, like in style of whatever, a gigantic.
Say that 5 times fast.
So avalanche is rolling down a glacier towards the shaky camera, and that's it. That's what it is.
That's great. Firefly saving lives every single day.
Exactly. You can even do like I try to stay in the same area, but then add like anamorphic and like film stock soft bokeh, kind of like an old lens anamorphic look, the stretching. And it kind of does it well. Like if you now look at the edges, there's definitely this anamorphic look and feel of this glacier here.
Beautiful.
Again, something, you could do this in real life, but it's going to be tough. What else do we have? You can do some, I mean, like we all love to play. That's more on the play side than the actual like useful side. We have animals that are running from the police. And this little turtle is doing the best it can to get away.
Run away. One question in the chat here, how long is the video clip that is generated by Firefly currently?
Yeah, it's currently 5 seconds at 720p.
Okay, great.
Like this first iteration. And yeah, if you look at the shadows and the light, like the red and blue light, it's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
We also have the rabbit. He's also running. And you get 5 seconds, and in this case, the like walking away is a little weird. So I could just like, I can take the first 3, and that's fine too. I could even try extending the 3 by another 2 with generative extend if I don't like the rest of the clip. What I can also do, and it's more going towards this like creative vision, creative intent thing. Let's make a title. And the word winter is kind of scratched into the ice.
Wow. So when you type within the prompt, you can put specific words that will then be generated within the clip.
It might sometimes take a few tries to get it right. But yes, you can do that.
Oh, I see some examples. Summer, spring.
Yeah. There's a pattern.
Yeah.
Like spring made out of flowers.
Very pretty.
Which is really cute.
And this would be perfect for if you have like a short form video or like a movie title, a short film title that you can then bring in.
Yeah, exactly. That's fall.
Oh, I love how it was out of focus and then kind of zoomed in too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're curious to see your initial reactions to this too. So go ahead and post them in the chat or how you would like to use them within your different video production.
Totally. And then there's a whole other element that I might even love a little bit more. You can bring your photos or stills, sketches, whatever it is, to life. So for example, here, I'm going to show you a series of things where the first frame is always a photo. Like in this case, there's a real cat, it's a real photo, it's a real moment that happened, and then the rest is AI. So the prompt is the cat's looking towards the camera, which it does in the first frame, and then slowly walking away.
Wow.
This kind of brings me back to or especially this one, another example. I have this like sparkling water situation. It's a photo. Let's make it a video.
Wow.
And like I used to do, one type of content I used to do back then was like event documentation stuff. Like this typical 1 minute, 90-second event hype film. And sometimes I used to do photography and film at the same time. And everyone who ever did this knows it's pretty terrible because
to do both,
you never get all the moments on both sides. It's just not possible. So in this case, this could be a real situation. It's an okay photo. I need maybe even just the 2 seconds first, and that's it. Works super well. Then also on the more like inspirational ideation side, again, real photo of real frozen fruit. And I want this to burst into a rich explosion of delicious fresh fruit and juice.
Okay,
let's go.
Nice.
And like this
is
like
a
definitely
great food commercial, juice commercial.
Yeah, but as you can see, like it's not ready in terms of like whoever ate these fruit in real life knows.
Yeah.
Like this.
That's a little.
I don't know what this is. Like it's an apple, orange, kiwi.
It's an alien fruit.
Tomato. But someone can take this idea and then make it real with all their art and experience.
And so if you have existing photos, you would then just upload it as a reference and then it can create from there.
Yes, exactly. What you can also do is, that's a view from our London office. Again, real photo. And let's say I want to make a video and I want to do a time lapse. But then maybe my client, or even me, or a director, whatever it is, as a cinematographer, wants to kind of see the time lapse before we like get the camera and get it up, and then we need to get the best weather possible. So even there, I just try getting one, and to see how could a time lapse from this location look.
Wow.
And again, there are some issues, and I couldn't use this in like a real documentary film, but I totally get the idea. Hey, if we're lucky, if the weather's great, this could be a real time lapse from that location.
Absolutely.
And then for how it works is you would put in, like it always, like you're used to in Firefly, it looks exactly the same. You put in a prompt, and then you could put in a reference image via the upload button, upload any 16:9 photo. Currently needs to be 16:9. If it's 9:16, it's getting cropped, which works as well. And then you have some that's always gonna do 16:9 now. It's always gonna do 24 FPS now. And you can choose the shot size. It's like extreme close-up and close-up medium long or extreme long shot. And you can choose the camera angle. Maybe I zoom in a little bit here. So again, shot size here, and then camera angle, aerial, eye level, high angle, low angle, top down. You don't have to do it. Sometimes I would just say shot by a drone, and then it kind of gets, okay, this should be aerial. So it's kind of clear. And then you can also prompt for motion, like a zoom in, zoom out, moving left and right, tilting up and down, static and handheld. But again, something you can totally prompt. Like you can say, as I did in my glacier example or my avalanche example, you can say shaky camera, and then it'll look handheld.
So you just put that, the shaky element would go into the prompt, and then handheld is the actual motion that you select.
Exactly. And just because on my screen, as you can see, it's just not visible without scrolling. If you want to play with the seed that's in the bottom left corner here, like you can reuse a seed that you really like and save it as well. Or like take something else in case it doesn't work for you.
And we had a question here from Julie, and I think it's been answered in the chat, but just to reiterate, the question, does Firefly learn from the reference photo we upload to generate video?
It doesn't. And it also will have you... Oh, I need to reload, I think, because I just clicked it. There will be a pop-up. If you use it for the first time, yes, here we go. If you have a reference image, then you need to make sure that you have the rights to use it. So there will be some cases, some obvious cases where it just won't work. Like don't put in a celebrity, it won't work. If it's really your photo, then use it. You will need to agree to the user guidelines and stuff like that. And we will definitely never train on anything you upload. It's just same to generative extend. It's just going to be used for generation, and after the generation, we just dump it.
Absolutely. And I think that's important in that text there too. Adobe will not use your content to train on any AI models. So again, everything that we train the Firefly model on is just our licensed content that we have in Adobe stock and public domain content. I have seen questions in the past as well about stock contributor models. So if they are compensated for that, there is a compensation structure within stock should your content be chosen to train the model. So stay safely assured that anything you upload is not going to be fed into Adobe Firefly for training.
Yeah, exactly. And this again, like all Firefly models, will also attach the content credentials, which I think we mentioned it. You can go, if you go to content credentials type, hard to type live, verify. Then there's a tool where you can just pull in your video, and then you will see you will see that it was created with Firefly. And then if you use this for something else, then this kind of tag will travel along the asset. Just for transparency, like all the things, or most of the things I showed you were like on this like inspiration, ideation thing. But then some of the B-roll stuff, it kind of looks real. So it's really important to be ethical about it and do it the right way to say, hey, this part has been AI generated, just for all the good reasons there are, to make sure that people know what's real and what's not real.
Definitely. And I think that is a question, I think Kishan had that question specifically about having a watermark or any other recognition that it is AI generated. So within the content credentials, Adobe's also part of the Content Authenticity Initiative, which we can share that link in the chat. But you are able to tell from those credentials, as Anton mentioned, that it's been generated with Firefly.
Yeah, and same for video, by the way, same for photo, by the way. And now in Lightroom, quick shout out Lightroom, you can also choose to embed your own social accounts like LinkedIn, Instagram, or X to your photo, and then it's the same for your photo. So everybody can take this photo, pull it into the verify site, and can see, like, this is your photo, and you can also prove that that's coming from you. So it's this whole, it's not just video, it's this whole array of like verification tech to make sure that, yeah, we know what's real and we know what's from where.
And we have a question from Kay in the chat. Can you adjust the rate parameters of the motion controls?
Not currently. You can always try to prompt. Like, for example, stuff like slow motion, little motion, a lot of motion. Like, I was experimenting with different prompts, and if it totally gave me a lot of good examples. So, for example, here, yes, I included slow motion in the prompt. So it's poured into the glass in slow motion. And that's exactly what happened. Then we have, there was one other example, yeah, where the drone was flying, nope, not this one. We were flying through, yes. Yeah, I think this one. So we're flying through this firework in the mountains. And this, for example, when I tried it first, it gave me slow motion, which I didn't want. So I put in a fast drone. First FPV drone is flying through this firework. Just to kind of control how much motion I get, how much action I get. And with the prompts, you can do it really well.
We have one other question, because I know we're almost at time, that we'll take here from Billy. Can you generate green screen alpha channel background footage to be used to overlay on other footage?
Absolutely. You can use this, and I think this example was made that way. I think this example was on black, and then with blend modes, you can do it. You can do stuff on green, you can do stuff on blue, whatever, depending on the situation. You can totally key it. You can totally do it on black, on white, whatever you want. You cannot currently do it transparently. Like you can't prompt with transparent background just yet. But this works, and like in this example, it works super well. And there are some more, and like I think Robert Ranitsky had some awesome examples on his Instagram where he like applied like dust and particle effects on a video, and it looks awesome.
Looks so cool.
And this was either on black or green. I can't remember. He will check it out.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to share Robert's Instagram in the chat, who works on the Adobe team as an evangelist, so you can check out some of his videos and tips for using Premiere. Anton, thank you so much for walking through all of this with us today. For those who want to kind of stay in touch or kind of continue to see what's new in Premiere Pro, what resources do you think they should check out?
Yeah, check out all our social channels. Check out our blog. For Premiere Pro specifically, check out this page, the What's New page. It's always getting updates. And yeah, there is so much happening. There's events around the world. There's evangelists. Like there's so many places where you can get up to date. But yeah, keep an eye out, install the beta, check it out, and let us know what you think.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Anton.
Thank you, Clara.
Thank you all for joining us live. This session is on demand too, so you can check out the recording anytime on the Adobe Live YouTube channel. But be sure to stay tuned. We have a lot of great sessions coming up today as part of Adobe MAX Day 3 in the Munich studio. So up next, we're going to be having Tina Tooley and Kieran Lewis going through some new features in Adobe Express to build your business. And then after that, we will have an Adobe Max Day 2 recap with Holly Rosestones and our very own MLX trait. And then after that, we'll be handing it off to the Miami show floor to our other colleagues in Florida. So thank you again for joining us, and be sure to stay tuned.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another stream of Adobe Live. Today we have someone very cool, someone who I've been wanting to host for a very long time. We have the very talented creative director, artist, and designer Tina Tooley. Tina, how are you doing?
Hi there. Hi, everyone. So nice to be back at Adobe Live and super excited to show today a couple of tools and new things that they're coming up as well in Illustrator.
Sweet.
And thank you so much for having me. It's
Our
a real
pleasure, yeah. I feel like we've been to events and never really had a chance to speak, but today is the day where we have a nice conversation.
Yes, we
share
have a whole hour.
We've got some good time. And as always, my friends, any comments you have in the chat for Tina while she's designing in Illustrator Express, we can answer that via the chat. So please send some love, send some clap emojis as well for the lovely Tina. But Tina, would you like to introduce yourself for people who don't know who you are?
Yes, so I'm Tina Tooley and I'm a London-based creative director and graphic communication designer. I work in a kind of like a range of design fields, like both print and digital design. You can see already here at the back like a couple of examples of my work. So it's quite a lot of like typography focused, but can expand all the way like from simple branding to kinetic typography, from like creating things by hand all the way to like 3D and of course like 2D graphics all over, like in all kind of like
work.
softwares. Yeah. So example, like I'm gonna go, since we are in the context of Adobe MAX,
On trend, I
an
like it.
identity I created a while ago, and it's all like an example like created on camera and playing around with different materials and different liquids. So you'll see quite a lot of that in my work. Having like the Adobe MAX logo at the very, very center and then creating like all the magic around just by playing around.
Cool.
So,
yeah, I love that.
so that's a bit of like what I talk about quite often, about like inspiration from everything around us and playing around by hand, creating. And
Very hands. I love that. I mean, I've been a massive like fan of your work on social, and I always get that vibe. It's very experimental. Colors are perhaps a big part of what you do, if I'm right in saying.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, if you are a fan of typography, color, you're in the right place, I'd say. Yeah. For watching this stream. Cool.
And yeah, so today I had like those experimentations that I'm doing every now and then, and you know how we do usually as designers, we start things and they just left in a corner of a computer somewhere for a while. So I decided to grab one of those and talk you through how do I usually work on a project, like step by step, creating all the way like to sharing on my social. So I'm gonna close this little window here.
Sweet.
So the little I created a little kind of like behind the scenes reel. So
Ooh, I love this.
let me show you and I will talk you over. So it's like work in progress still, so nothing finalized.
Nice.
So I had this plasticine in the studio and I was always like very keen to see like how you can create like 3D typography in like an analog way by hand, you know. And so without having like any kind of like technical difficulties or anything. So I got the plasticine and I started playing around to create some simple typography.
Very cool.
So just like the little messages, please, like super fast and easy. Sometimes it's like it takes no time to actually create by hand. It's like half an hour like little experimentation.
There's no undo button, right? It's just
No
real life.
undo, no.
Cool.
And that's the nice part as well, because you focus and you have to get things done like
nice.
at that moment correctly.
Nice.
And what I did is I'm gonna show you like another little kind of like step-by-step video I put together to show you like a bit of how I edit. I'm a bit of like a little perfectionist and I love details.
Life of a designer, I love it.
Yes, I spend quite a lot of time like fixing all the imperfections, and that's, you can see a bit of like here the example step by step. I kept like a couple of like steps of the process, and you can see how like the type was like pretty cracked in the beginning, and I was like, this is quite interesting, but for this project I don't really want it to be that cracked. I wanted to be like more like looking like 3D, so I started smoothing it out, and I'm almost there. I just left one letter, the E letter, that I wanted to share with you like step by step to see how exactly I managed to get it like to feel like in this kind of like 3D look and feel rather than like a picture itself. So
Very cool.
I'm gonna open the file in Photoshop, so let's go here.
And I have to add, Tina, by the way, because I wouldn't be a good host if I didn't do this, but everyone is absolutely adoring your work. There's a lot of emoji, love hearts in the faces. We've got Deco who just said, hi, Tina, absolutely adore your work. Karina saying it's going to be a fun power hour. So yeah, there's a lot to unravel, but we're in a good place. Great.
Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is like start working on this letter. So you see already everything else is quite nice, smoothed out. It doesn't really have like any cracks. I did leave like some kind of like imperfections. You see here the ending is not perfect. So I do like to keep a couple of things, but not necessarily like all of them. So I'm gonna duplicate my layer, usually counting them so I know where am I. So that's number 28. So I will have like the other one just in case I wanna go on something backwards. And how do I do is like a bit of the painful way, but
The patience,
The
right? Kicks in.
patience, yes.
You did mention at the beginning, yes.
so one of them is like I use the stamp tool and I get in and I just stamp like all like the little things like and remove them slowly, somehow
Okay.
like this. So that takes a while, but it's worth in the end. So you will
By the
see
way,
the before
you're like the
and
first
after.
person I've ever seen that numbers their layers. I've always seen people type in all color code, and you've numbered them, and it's a cool way to see how different designers have their own different ways of
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
So,
It helps me like remember like the process also, and sometimes like as I show you before, like the little loop of how I already like edited like parts of them. So it helped me like to have like all the steps ready.
Nice.
So, but yeah, it depends. Sometimes I name them with numbers. Sometimes it's also like by names. In the specific scenario, it's the same layer, but a version like after. So it's simple to just have the number.
Nice.
And the other thing I'm using quite a lot is the patch tool. So it's right here. And for like bigger spots, instead of using like the stamp, I use the patch. So you can quickly like remove, or sometimes even for the smaller ones, if it depends on my mood, I guess.
I guess the nature of the material as well, it
Yeah.
stems itself. It doesn't mind if it's not perfect because of
Yes.
the nature. So you kind of get away with it, right?
Yeah,
In opposed to-
yeah. So
yeah.
it depends how much detail you want to get rid of, like how many of like those imperfections, and
Sure.
yeah. So now I feel like it's a bit quicker. I think with the that's getting.
Nice.
I think it's getting a bit simpler. I think. The
Sure.
tablet
And for
is
folks as well watching back home, you probably can't see, but we've got Tina kind of working with a tablet as well. So it's always nice to see how different creatives, equipment-wise, what they use and what they operate with. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. But
Cool.
perhaps people who know me will realize usually I work with a trackpad. Then
Ah,
that's the
okay,
worst
fair.
out of all.
Oh, I
So
overestimate,
It's,
sorry,
it's a
yeah.
luxury to have like a tablet today.
Special occasion, is it, for Max? It just-
Yes, I tend to travel quite a lot and like work remotely, which like you don't usually have the space and the setup to have like, the tablet. The tablet is like ideal if you want to retouch things.
Sure.
So I'm happy when I have like the luxury to have it.
Gotcha.
But it's always, as I say, like I don't think like the equipment should ever be like an obstacle to create something. So if it's with a trackpad, it's with a trackpad, with a mouse, like anything can work. So I'm just a tiny bit slower, I would say, with the trackpad. But
That's all
still.
good. Yeah, and we've got a question
Sure.
for you from Kevin whilst you're in the flow of it. So Kevin has asked, how do you avoid getting lost in the details, and in brackets, when you shouldn't? Oh, sorry, and when you should keep imperfections. It's a great question.
I think that's the kind of step that I do keep like the before and after. So I can always go and check like, is it better or worse? And if I feel like, I want to keep that crack, I can like just mask it and put it back in.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, like what I do is like keep like my progress, and then I can always go backwards. But I guess it's something that you get used to and you train yourself to do
course.
better and better by time. So you kind of like know what you want to remove and what not.
And on that topic, whilst you're in the flow of it, of training, I mean, are you
Yeah.
self-taught? Did you go to university, education? What's for folks who are kind of new
Yeah,
to you?
so I did study graphic design, a BA, back in Greece, where I'm originally from. But I would say I learned most of the things by practicing rather than from the university or something. So I feel like university is like a good like guidance on things, but it's literally like up to you if how much time you're gonna spend practicing and
Nice.
learning things. And especially nowadays online, there are so many like tutorials and
course.
courses and little bits that they can teach you. So
And Adobe Live courses, of course. We
Of
wouldn't be on
course.
brand if we didn't mention that. But I mean, you made a really good point about the idea of different ways of reaching the roots. And I know we have a lot of people who are watching who are on different levels, whether they're juniors
Yeah.
starting out.
Yeah.
So again, if you're very new and you're watching these, hopefully you can watch a few more like Tina's streams and get inspired to do your own thing.
Yeah, and I love watching like the live stream. I usually put it on the second monitor, like next to my
background,
work.
yeah.
So it's kind of like, I can have like company someone to work with.
I love that.
And learn at the same time. It's always like little tools or techniques that you weren't really using, and you just realize from somebody else's workflow, oh, that's quite cool. I could do that.
I love that you mentioned that, because I remember my own work, I do that as well, but especially when it's, you have those evenings where you have a deadline, say the next day, and you're up quite late. But obviously the beauty of live streams could be in the US, so time difference. So someone at like 11 o'clock is doing something, and it's, whether it's 2 in the afternoon in the US. So it's a nice balance to have someone in the background, right?
I love that part.
Designing.
Yeah, I love when designing, like listening to something or like watching like something like it's not like needs 100% of your attention. So it's quite good always to have the live stream.
And it's great to see in the chat, folks are telling us where they are tuned in from. So we love to see that.
Nice.
We are global side, just so you know as well. Seeing we've got people from Netherlands, Canada, India, Bangladesh, Sweden, Florida, Munich, of course. So many people here to see you do some magic. So it's great to see. And again, any questions you have for Tina, what she's working on, process, things you want to see, please do get those in the chat, and I will share that directly with her.
Yeah, definitely. Any kind of questions, career tips, behind the scenes tools, anything here to answer.
I love that.
While working on this little piece here.
It's quite a fun. I mean, this type of work is definitely not in a space that I operate, but it's so like refreshing to see how creators like work with it. And like I said, I've been following a lot of your work previously, so it's one, it's cool to see you design in person, and two, it's cool to see how you work from conception to final.
Yes,
which is very nice.
Yeah. It's always quite fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I'd still had like the type also to bring the actual thing, but I think it's smashed in a box.
That could be for the next streams, when you come back and then behind the scenes. I love that.
Yeah, it would be nice. I think like it was like a couple of years ago I did like a live stream from San Francisco that we played around with like liquids on the studio.
I love that.
So it was super fun, I
love that. See, there we go. So that's a nice little plug to say you can rewatch some stuff.
I think it was a longer one. It was like 2-3 hours.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah. It was.
I think I remember those days when they were.
So it was pretty long. So I think we had time like to like do like the typography, and then we went like hands-on, like to do like liquids on like trays and film, photograph them.
I hope they fed you well in those, because that's quite a long time to be working. I hope you had some water and food on the go.
Yeah.
Great. We've got a question here for you whilst you're in the flow, which is via YouTube, which is great. Saying animated works in your portfolio look very, very impressive. Do you animate them in After Effects?
So I'm working like both in After Effects and Cinema 4D whenever it's like 3D things. So combination, I would say, for motion, but mostly like After Effects. Yeah.
Nice. Everyone's got like a soft spot for different programs that they tend to. Is that so? What would you say your kind of go-to programs you operate within quite often?
I would say Illustrator is my favorite.
Sure. Everyone's got a favorite, right?
Yes. And then I would say next one is like Photoshop and After Effects. Used to use quite a lot of InDesign, not as much anymore.
That hurts me. That's like a little dagger to the heart.
Yes.
It's okay. It's okay.
But it's kind of like the nature. I guess I work like less on like print design nowadays. I still do, but not as much. So it's
I get that. I mean, that's the joys. I mean, we touched on this quite a few in the previous streams, where you find that you got all these different programs. They do what you want it to do, but sometimes a lot of them kind of work intuitive with each other. So depending on what you are working on a project, you will see which one works best for you.
Course. And another thing I want to show, like I really like when they're big patches like this, that the patch tools don't necessarily always work nicely. I love the generative fill, because you can just do that, and then it's going to give you a couple of options, because the patch tool leaves some blurry like edges sometimes. Well, with this one, it's kind of like, that's
very cool.
Getting there. So you can select, I think the second one is my favorite patch, and I usually merge it with my original. So let me do 29. It was. And so
it makes you think like how like life is so much quicker and streamlined now with
yes.
Yeah. How was it before the days of AI within your work? Did you find that it was trickier, longer?
Yes, definitely. Or like when you want to expand the background of your composition, I love that function so much. It solved so many of my issues. It's kind of like, I don't have enough image. No problem.
No problem. We can just keep on going.
And I saw also like now it's in Premiere as well. They introduced that part, which is going to be super nice. I want to try. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we might have maybe touched on that in the previous stream, but it's on
the video
exactly
function, yes.
and the joys of again watching some of the keynote talks. Hopefully, some of you might have watched it through yesterday. There's so many new updates, and of course, if you update your Creative Cloud, you'll be able to have a play around as well.
Yeah, there are some really exciting.
There's some cool
tools,
stuff,
yes.
yeah.
And I can't wait also to try the Firefly, the video function.
Do you use much video within your?
I do quite a lot of motion, and I'm very keen to see like how I could perhaps like take one of my static pieces and fit it in and create like motion.
Nice.
Add some motion in that. So I'm very keen on checking that part out. So I'm using especially like Firefly lately a lot to see like by how like I could create perhaps one piece in my style.
Sure.
And then feed it in and create like a collection out of it.
Nice.
So like, or just grab it like as the base is the outcome and rebuild on top of that. So using it as like part of the process of creating rather than just like the final outcome itself.
Of course.
And
I think that's a great point, because I think sometimes when you create a project, you have in mind the final deliverable, and then you realize the beauty of loads of different programs is that you could have multiple deliverables depending on what you want to apply it to. So it's great to see. We've got a question here, and it's actually relating a bit more. I know you do a lot of public talks and speaking, and you're no stranger to that space, which is great. And we've got a question from Jonas via Behance saying, any tips on doing talks, Tina? I'm doing my first talk soon, and I wanted to get some tips from you. There we go.
Yeah, so definitely. So first of all, I think it's like to make sure that you're like, you feel as much as possible confident with yourself. So you communicate to your audience exactly how you feel. So it's very important to make sure that you feel confident and that you're like enjoying that part. And that's also the message you're going to reflect to your audience. And remember always that nobody knows your work better than you. So there is no way like to really fail it. And even if things go wrong, look, we are humans. It's fine. You can just say, oh, sorry, stuck. Or it can happen.
Love that.
Yeah, so it's just like be calm about it. It's fine. Like I remember I did once a talk and there was a project I was talking about. And my brain stuck, and I was like, I can't remember the client of that project. It was pretty obvious. Like I worked on a project, I should remember the client, but I couldn't. I was
the human element, though.
Sorry, I don't remember the client name. Check it on my website. Sorry.
It's there somewhere.
It's a human
though.
thing, yes.
Yeah.
So it's fine. So most important thing is like just be yourself, relax, enjoy it, and just don't worry too much. Like,
Yeah, nice.
And like a book that I really like that's about public speaking. It's called You Were Born to Speak. That is super nice and has some very nice advice on how to do like public talks, and it's all the way like from how you stand on like how you move, like all like everything, how it impacts what you're talking about. So
that's interesting.
It's,
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm loving the gems thrown out today, and that's great. Hopefully that helps within obviously Jonas's comment, but also anyone else who's in that space where you want to either you got some talks coming up or you want to get into that space. So obviously Tina's a seasoned.
I would say it's not just the talks; it's even like presenting to a client is a talk
True,
itself. Like I mean,
and,
it's talking through your ideas and everything. So it's very important to practice like kind of like speaking. So it's.
Yeah, just to add as well,
part of my job, I would say.
No, I love that. I think just to add as well, I mean, it's a tricky one with speaking public because it's not for everyone as well. Like I feel like it's sometimes an acquired, and sometimes the art of collaboration helps. So if you are working with a partner or you balance out, sometimes the balance of, someone speaking, maybe someone else doing more of the background work, that sometimes helps as well. So you find ways of utilizing what is best for your skill.
But on the other hand, I would say is as everything is like a matter of practice. Even if you are not like feeling confident in the beginning, if you push yourself and practice more and more and more, at some point you will be like, it's okay.
It will just click.
I remember like the very first talks that I did, and I was like so stressed. I was like, wow, what? And you just get used to that. It's like as everything else. So you just need to practice, push yourself and practice. If you have someone else to put forward to do the talk for you, that's even nicer, easier, easy solution. Yeah. But I think it's important also to challenge ourselves. And
I love that you mentioned the idea of things are live, and literally we are live right now from the Adobe Munich office. So things will happen, things go wrong, but we make it work like we're doing right now.
Yeah,
so
definitely. So there's always a way.
Exactly. So I can see you're just smoothing out.
Yes, I'm smoothing out the edges, and we are almost there with editing that. So then we are gonna jump into our next steps, and I have like some quite exciting things to show. yeah, including a new tool that I really like.
Oh, keeping us in suspense, Tina. I like that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna reveal yet. So
Nice.
yeah, that's kind of like okay. Oh, the edge here is not okay.
I love that. It's the 600% zoomed in, and we noticed the attention to detail. We all love as designers.
Yes, that's I think one of my biggest problems.
I think it's a superpower, to be fair. I think sometimes we almost like we're perfectionists, right? So we want to.
Yeah, but it can end up being like editing
Too-
tiny details that don't
No one
really
notices.
matter for like days or hours. And
So true.
Yeah,
we go
so
to bed
it's-
thinking of that time when we didn't.
Yes, yeah.
that
So I'm
pixel.
trying like also that's like a challenge I usually try to put myself and be like, okay, you have to finish by today. Today is gonna be finished. It doesn't matter what, just get over it. Even if it's not perfect, get over it.
Nice,
So yeah,
nice.
because else you can carry on tweaking for forever, right?
Of course. And we had that, I think, in our first stream this morning, where I think it was with Melanie as well. We touched on deadlines, and the chat was engaging a lot, talking about how you feel comfortable with deadlines. So again, just on that as well, we have a very strong schedule up for today, and we've got one more sort of recap after this as well for the day itself. So definitely stay tuned.
Yeah, it always helps also to have like deadlines because it's like you have
You
to
have something
stop
to
at some
work.
point. The self-initiated projects are usually the problem that you're like,
It's
oh,
helping.
can I tweak a bit more and a bit more? And yeah.
We got a question. So the book you mentioned at public speaking, so Kerry in the chat wants to know, what was
Yes.
the name of that book again, please?
You were born to speak.
Cool. There we go.
I think it's that, if I'm not mistaken, you know.
We'll Google it and then hopefully
Not the
if
best
you-
memory. But yeah, I think it's somehow like this. If you Google it, you will definitely find something like that.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a very, very good one.
Nice.
So yeah, I think like in terms of like, it looks quite good in terms of detail. So, oh, I found a patch here.
Ninja moves.
Oh, I'm
Tina.
gonna stop looking.
There's
And I'm
so
gonna...
many on the. No, I'm kidding. You're good. You're good.
I know there are like I can spend hours and hours. I already said. So now it's like the moment that I'm gonna go step ahead. So number 30, and I don't really like the carve here and some bits. So what I do is I use the liquify and I start like carving again like my letter instead of like doing like manually. I can just stretch a bit here, like improve like any bits that I feel like they are not perfect.
Nice.
Or sometimes I do the exact opposite, like stretching it to make it even more imperfect. So it depends on what you want to achieve. So it's either for me like it has to look almost great, like almost like detailed and perfect, or it has to look like
There's no middle ground.
In purpose, yes, can't compromise with anything in between.
Fair.
So yeah, let me do the curves here. So yeah, and it's quite important to always think like you don't have to be like always 100% like digital starting like and like especially like I know quite a lot of people are struggling like with 3D and learning that. So you see, it's like it looks like a 3D piece, but it's not even created in 3D. It could be created in 3D, but perhaps it would be hard to like guess and create all those imperfections. So sometimes it's like find like other ways around if your tools are kind of like an obstacle to you. And yeah, I love like playing around with like the physical world and the analog, like experimenting by hand and creating by hand. So yeah.
I love that. It's and
It's
actually
always quite
it's funny because I think I had a conversation with the team backstage and we were talking about this idea of sometimes when you're in the world of work, the idea of physicality or like playing with stuff, experimenting time doesn't allow you to do that because deadlines and whatnot. But things at university or when you're in education, that's the time you experiment and have fun with it. So it's quite cool to be able to.
But
to
it's
go back
still
into
like important to not just say, "Oh, I don't have time," but just make the time.
You
know?
make the time.
You will
24 hours
never
is
have
plenty,
time.
right?
Yeah, you will never have the time like to do like self-initiated stuff else.
So
It's
true.
always easier to just go to the pub, have some drinks, and
I love that. Okay, you're describing your own lifestyle. I don't know.
well,
Which is totally fine.
it's a
Of course.
decision. It's like you make time. Like
Exactly. Of course.
it's-
Of course.
yeah, it's just like even like sometimes I put like blocks in my head and I'm like, okay, today it doesn't matter how busy you are with work, you have to spend like 1 hour to do like something that is like for like teaching yourself new tools, new techniques. It's equally important. I'm sure I will find like some time to catch up with the client work as well.
Sure.
So it's just putting priorities and making sure that you experiment, you play around. Yeah, the university is easy. You have like plenty of time to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the kind of like when you're working as well, it's still like you can gather with some friends in the weekend and do like a kind of like fun little
The nice work-life
experimentation.
balance, isn't it?
Maybe the
Yeah.
pace is not going to be the same, but yeah, it's still.
Nice.
it's important like to make some time to experiment and try new things because client work is usually, as you said, like tight deadlines,
regimented, yeah.
and they don't allow you as much to like experiment. So it's good to experiment beforehand, and then when a client work comes in, like a project, then you can either like talk them through references that of like your self-initiated work and explain them what you're planning to do, or like use like this as the basis to like create some ideas. So it's doing some work in advance before even work comes in. So
Nice.
it's quite good.
So you've heard of hair first, my friends. So yeah, keep up to date and obviously, keep on those side hustles. And it's always nice to hear in the chat, let us know, how do you find the work-life balance? Are you freelancing? Are you doing your side hustles? Are you full-time? Like, let us know. And hopefully you're in the right place because you're watching the stream now. So that's always a good one too. Very, very cool.
Should be right.
Yeah, and actually we're about half an hour into the stream, so that's a nice time to mention, if you have just joined us, massive welcome. And today we have the very lovely creative director, artist and designer, Tina Tooley. And you can see right now we are working on some cool typography. So again, any questions you have for Tina, get us in the chat and I will ask that while she is designing.
Definitely, yeah. So I think I'm almost done for now. It's definitely, I can like go ahead and tweak more and make it even nicer. But I think I want to show you a couple of extra things. So I'm not going to spend too much more time here in Photoshop. So let's tweak just a few details. I think it looks pretty good. So,
Yeah,
and it's
solid.
nice to always see the before and after, right?
Of course.
It's quite fun.
The before and after. That
Oh,
is,
yeah.
it's like it's gone from old to young very quickly.
Yes, and then we spent like half an hour or something. So it's not
It's good
that
to
bad,
see.
right?
Yeah.
Cool. So I think I'm quite happy with that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm definitely saving it.
Yes, I love that you mentioned the classic rookie mistake. there.
Yeah,
Just-
it's one of the things that my hand goes automatically without even thinking about
I love
it.
that.
And I'm gonna jump in Illustrator where I created some couple of like different assets. Let me
Nice.
grab this, and I'm gonna jump actually on the beta version of Illustrator. I'm not sure. I think it might be already released now with the Adobe MAX, right? The new tools on the actual version. I'm not sure.
I think so, yeah, if you update. I could be wrong, but I think we'll put it
Yeah.
in the chat otherwise.
Well-
but definitely update because I know that's one thing we've been pushing
Yes.
a lot today. If
Yeah,
you
because
update, you'll see new
Yeah,
things.
the new tools are there. I think I am updated. I just didn't check it. I didn't
Don't say
check
that
if
loud, it's
I
okay.
didn't check if the tool is there.
What she
we
meant
can
to say
check
was it's
together.
fully updated and we are on the top. That's all good.
Cool. So I just drag and drop like my little graphic here. Let's put it actually on. I'm gonna put it on a canvas. Let's do proper things.
Nice.
Okay, so that's good. And I want to show you one of the tools that I really, really like, new tool and Illustrator.
Ooh, cool. Let's have a look.
I'm gonna keep like a clone. And I'm gonna grab one of those like wobbly shapes. Let's place it on top. And I think I'm gonna leave it let's leave it pink for now.
I like the color contrast as well already.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah.
Or maybe, yeah, we will check color later. So on the new Illustrator tools, they have like this little create mockup tool, which you just select like your image, like any like pixel-based image, and any graphic you have, and you click there, and what it does is creates a mockup. So a mockup, normally you would expect to have like a little box or something or a bug, but nothing stops you from being like your creative work kind of thing. So it recognizes the 3D object, and then you can just hover over the shape and you see it just maps it
Very cool.
on the letters, or correspondingly, like you can see here like some classic mockups, for example. So it could be like on an envelope. So it recognizes how the object geometry is and it maps it for you. So I really, really like this new function. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select my shape and put it into like the color mode.
Cool.
So that's a bit nicer now, right?
Yeah.
So we can see through. So it's a really, really fun tool. I really like, and not sure, perhaps you already seen, like I'm gonna jump on my Instagram and show. I just released, was it yesterday or something? This little reel that shows, and it's so much fun. I was like, oh, this new tool, what am I supposed to
love
do? So
that.
I took like pictures like from all over like London around like my house and
I love how
the
swift you are as
studio.
well producing the
Yeah,
content.
and I was like, oh, what should I do? I didn't really want to do like classic like mock-ups. And I was like, what can I map it on? So
You did the
literally
world, basically.
Everything around me.
I love that. It's a
just
nice day
playing
trip.
around, and it's so much fun to see like how it carves on different surfaces, and it really recognizes everything. So
They're like little
it was
characters,
super,
man. They're like
super
little
fun.
like characters you
Yeah,
designed and
it's-
just exploring
Yeah,
the world.
just dragged it all over. Well, yeah, it will take ages to like create something like this, right? So
Very cool shot.
yeah, I love that tool. It's the mockup tool in Illustrator, and I quite like how it's mapping. So I'm just gonna go ahead and
it's
add
looking
it in
good.
a couple of like other like letters and stuff. So let's give it a
Whilst
try.
you're doing that as well, we have a really good question here from
Yeah.
Keys via the Behance chat saying, "Hi Tina, I'm a big fan of your experimentation and work.
Thank you.
How do you think your workflow will change, and how do you plan to do more experimentation while adapting to this? So in keeping in with the new tools and functions."
It's always like, for me, every tool is like a nice new challenge. For example, like this one, I had no idea like how I could like map my kind of like, how I could use like my analog typography and use it almost like a 3D object that you have like the material that you just drop on it and you remap it. So it's exactly the same thing here. So it's always like, I'm very, very excited to see like how I can use like new technologies in my work and how I can like push it even further, keeping still like the analog. I love experimenting by hand,
Sure.
but there is always like new possibilities. Like even like this mapping, it's kind of like, I would most likely, like you see, like there are a couple of imperfections like here on the E letter. So I would most likely grab this as the basis and go back in Photoshop and redraw
Sure.
like these shapes. But even like the flat shape that it goes and creates this interesting textures, and I can just easily like move it around and decide how I wanna map it. Is like it's an example of how like you use new tools and explore its possibilities. And always you have to think about like, okay, a tool like this tool is supposed to be just for mockups, but do I have to use it for mockups, or there is something else I can do as well, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's not,
like that.
I guess, the exact use that the designer who made it
But you've done
had
it in a
in
way
mind, I
that
guess.
works good for you, no? It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
tailored to the individual, so I
Yeah.
fully get that.
And it's always quite important, I feel like, to find your own way to use like the tools and the technologies available. Even like AI, like quite a lot of designers and artists are scared about it, but on the other hand, it can be such a great tool. Just find a way to use it and embed it in your work. Like for me, like lately, as I said, like I'm creating sometimes like one graphic and I want like a whole library or something for like a branding project. So I feed it in and I managed to get like similar examples for like, I don't know, 20 other graphics that I need. And then most likely I'm not really using them as final outcome, but I'm using them as either as inspiration or basis and redrawing, recreating on top. So it's already so much fun, right? So
Looking good.
yeah, and I'm gonna try also, let's try one more. I'm gonna try like this pattern as well. I wanna see how it works. But I'm gonna do another color. I'm gonna let's do
Mix it
blue.
up.
Blue and green is quite nice as well. So again, I'm gonna change it into color so we can see through. Oh, that's nice. I like with the
Even
blue.
just that looked pretty cool. Just kind of
Yeah.
outline over, and I was like, job done. Boom.
Yes, yeah, even like this. But I
cool.
think let's try the mock-up to see how
mix
it's
it
gonna.
up.
Yeah, it's quite nice. I really like this new function.
I think even just watching you just from a outside looking in, it's very cool to see how you are super interested in the experimentation of the design, and it sometimes doesn't feel like it's all about the final process. It's more about how you get there, which that's the vibe I
Exactly.
get from how you operate. I don't know if I'm correct. in
Yeah, and
saying.
especially when I do self-initiated, the most important part for me is just to understand and experiment with new tools rather than the final outcome. The final outcome doesn't really matter, to be honest. I want to just see what else I could actually do.
Sure.
So, and then when client work comes in, I'm ready like to kick off and be like, oh, I'm gonna use this and that tool that I explored before. I'm gonna go backwards.
Nice.
I really like this.
I can see in the chat folks are talking about as well the sneaks, which is very cool because again, it's very cool to sort of see what's out. And so, yeah, we've got folks like Bliss and Oliver talking about some cool features that are to come and obviously what they're seeing. So again, there's a lot to unravel, a lot to digest, but I can see you folks are already actively on it, which is what we like to see. So keep on watching.
Yeah, long list to check. I was like the
There's a
other
lot.
day on the Adobe MAX in London, the
Yeah.
watch.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and I was like trying to take notes of all of the new tools. I'm
Just
like,
press pause on the live screen.
yes, yeah, literally. I was like, cool, quite a lot of new stuff to explore.
There is.
So yeah.
How was it in Max London? Because I did see, obviously, we had a Max party in the Munich, and then I saw in London. obviously,
Yes, but they were
where
at
I'm
the same
from.
time, so I was like about to catch up with the Munich one. I'm like, no, I it's not possible.
Nice.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was super nice to see like all the new updates and yeah, always like fun
nice
like,
to
to
see,
chat
isn't it?
with everyone
And even catching up with the old
connect.
team as well, right? Because you see a lot of folks who
Yes.
you don't necessarily always
Yes, exactly.
see. So it's the beautiful of the the beauty of our community, right? Of
Yes.
Adobe. So very
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's always quite fun. So I'm gonna go ahead. I think I'm gonna make this blue a bit deeper blue, or maybe no. Let's try another. I don't really like.
I'm loving the
that.
comments on the sneaks as well. So we've got Kishan who said via YouTube, wow, it makes it so easy and so many more to come. Adobe Sneaks event was mind blowing. There we go. So yeah,
Definitely,
folks are
yes.
enjoying it and they're enjoying your stream as well.
Yeah. So any tool, guys, any new tools and techniques that you saw on the Adobe Max you wanna explore more?
Let us know in the
Yeah,
chat
let us
for
know.
sure. And even if there's like, oh my gosh, there is, but I can't remember what they are. The beautiful is that
Describe
after this stream, we're gonna have a nice recap as well, so you get a chance
Ooh,
to
nice.
do a nice recap of all of the cool features, which is hard to sort of squeeze in within an hour because there's a lot to do. But we'll do our best, I'm sure, with our next stream. So stay tuned for that. But we've got 15 more minutes or so. So again, any questions you have.
Okay.
For Tina, there we go, timing. Any questions for Tina? Get those in the chat, and
Stress.
it goes quick though, right? The time
It
when
goes so quick.
when you're
like,
talking
wow.
and designing, it's
Okay, so I think I'm then gonna stick with that one. I'm not gonna spend more time on the other. I'm just gonna fix the E. I don't like the E. Let me see if I can fix the mapping here a bit. And yeah, somewhere there. Yeah, and then I'm gonna show you. I wanna jump and show you a bit of like the Adobe Express,
nice.
which is one of the updates that I'm quite keen on start using that I was looking for a
Sounds
while.
good.
So I'm gonna go ahead and export just this little artboard. Which one is it? Number 2. Okay, export as, and yeah, that's good. And we just want number 2 out of 2. And let's do that.
Excited to see how you operate in Express now. It's I know we definitely touched on throughout today's stream and also yesterday's stream multiple programs, but obviously Express is also a big part of it as well. And we've dabbled in Illustrator, so now you're going to see how the two perfectly entwine.
Okay, so let's jump into Adobe Express. Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna go and create a new project. So let's start with upload, and this is our graphic. I would most likely like edit still a couple of things, but for now I think we're just gonna go forward, and I will show you a couple
No
of things.
judgment, it's fun.
Yeah, I will spend like my night in my evening tweaking the details, and yes. Cool. So I'm just gonna go ahead with the original artwork. I don't really wanna do anything else. And I'm gonna go to resize it, and I wanna have an Instagram story. So let's go ahead and resize. Oops. Where is it? Instagram story. Cool. And what it does, which is quite nice, is automatically like extending my background, which I really, really like. In this scenario, I didn't really need because I just want to twist it, but I think we
I feel
can.
like I'm at a disco
you
party
cannot.
there. I felt like I was ready to
Yeah, I'm just gonna
start
go
raving.
ahead and manually resize, I think, on this one, and then I will show you the other. Cool. So that's, it does again the. Okay, let me add a new page. Custom size, perfect. And yeah, leave the original as it is, and I'm gonna grab this image and bring it on my next. So nowadays is a classic thing that for social media you need to have like so many like different aspect ratios, which is what I talked about the tool, in Photoshop, that you can just expand the background and solve your problem, nice and simple. Cool. So let's say that this would be like my layout for like an Instagram story or a reel, if I would make it part of the reel that I start creating.
Sure.
And I like that, you can just go to resize here and then select what else I want to do. Let's say I want to do an Instagram post. So you can just say duplicate and resize, and it's going to create a new canvas.
Nice.
And it's going to also resize your work. So in this scenario, we didn't do, I think I didn't do right. Yes. Let me go back. So I just grab this, and then
And whilst you're doing that as well, it's a nice time to remember as well. If you are one of those designers, or even just starting out, it's very cool to get a feel for this, because obviously you would have seen Illustrator. Might seem quite daunting to people who are not used to it, but then Express is a much more simplified and actually an easy way to kind of get into design, and then you kind of take that leap of faith into the bigger program. So you have the beauty of both worlds.
So yeah, here we go. I got my square version, and it already extended the background. Well, I didn't have like enough, so now it's more than enough. So I can have like the square, and so on. You can like keep adding and creating like all the dimensions you need. So I don't think we really need this one. So let me get rid of that tab. And I don't think we need, or we can just leave the original one. Cool. So
nice variations.
And important to always name your file.
You're giving us like the I love the admin days. Name your files, save your files. It's just the things that I've forgotten.
Find it again,
of course.
Yes, you know.
We're not living like monsters. We're nice and neat and organized. I like it.
Yeah, and there are also options, of course, like to go ahead and add like your like text, whatever you wanna say, and so on. Edit further here. But to be honest, I prefer to just finalize my work either in Illustrator or Photoshop. I feel more familiar. But if you're getting started like with design, I feel like it's a good tool like to also jump at and keep like adding. Or it might be also that you want to add here because it's easier. You have like all the different dimensions you need to post, and makes your life easier. So we have like a square. We have like we are just missing one more format: the Instagram, the post that is this one, the Instagram kind of like ad. So I'm gonna go and resize, and let's create this one too.
Disco ball,
and I could perhaps also copy paste from the other one, I guess, rather than recreating the background.
We've got a great question here from Keith actually, and I'm really glad that he mentions, because it's a great point. So they've asked, how helpful do you feel Express could be for businesses?
I think it can be super helpful. I think on the new updates it says also how you can kind of like lock colors and a couple of assets, so you can create kind of like your brand guidelines in a way, and then give it to the client, and then they can create like the remaining assets without having you all the time like to do like every single like little fix. And so I think it's a very good way like to collaborate in a way with your client. So you deliver like the assets, and then they just grab them and they expand themselves. They change the copy, and it's quite straightforward. It's online, so I would say it can make things easier.
Sure, I'm glad you mentioned that, because my brain did think exactly that, like the idea of being able to give the file and not be worried that your design is going to be massacred, because actually things are locked, things are in place, they're not necessarily designers, but they still have an element of flexibility. So that was a great question, Keith, because there's definitely ways it can be worked for designers, but also for clients and businesses. And like Tina just said, obviously the idea of locking things in place. So great question. Yeah,
so it can be quite time-saving. But I feel like it's nice to also have like all the formats like in the same like kind of file, and I think it's
all together.
Sure. It works pretty well.
Nice.
So and so I got like all my 3 ratios that you usually need for.
Looking good.
So that you usually use like for social media. So of course I could tweak further. And the other thing that I like, which it's quite time saving, it's you need to post like in all kind of like social media, and it's always good to be like active in as many social media as possible.
It's a job now in itself, right?
Yes,
it's social media marketing manager.
It's a job itself, right? But you never know, like even if it's not about like having like a big crowd, like a big amount of followers or anything. You just need one person to see that, and you never know if that one person is going to be the one that's going to commission you to create something.
True.
So it's important for me like to always like keep active in all kind of like social media. It's like if you post on one, it's not too much effort to also post in all of them.
For sure.
And make sure that you're like active in all of them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going back to like the Adobe Express on the main kind of like page. And this, I think is it new feature? I think it's kind of like newish. The
with the scheduling?
Schedule, yeah.
I feel like maybe it was there for, I think it was there for last
okay,
Max,
it's been
possibly.
a bit, yes.
But they've definitely refined it, and I think it's just to make it so much easier, right? So what it does is like going to the calendar, and then you can go ahead and be like, okay, I'm gonna
post this. I want to post this artwork tomorrow, but tomorrow I'm traveling, so I'm not really gonna be available to do manually the thing, or I just don't want to bother doing that manually. So it's quite nice that you can kind of like schedule in your posts, and yeah, you can select your channels. I already have like mine.
Nice. Got so many, Tina. You're hooked up to the internet. I love
so
it.
yeah, you have to be like
Of course you do.
as many as possible.
Of course.
And it's quite nice because you can just select them and then be like, okay, if it's Instagram, like what you want to post, I just want to do a post, and then you can select your artwork and just post it like straight away.
Nice. I can see we just had a little tip as well from the powers that be. Collaborations also with shared calendars is new as well. So that's a new feature, sharing calendars and
that's
being able
lovely. I
to
haven't
collaborate
checked
with
that one.
clients. So again, if you're on Express for the first time, check these features out because they are awesome.
That's good. So I got this.
And also a nice reminder, we're in our final 8 minutes. It does go quick, right?
getting
Told
there.
you. But yeah, we've uncovered so much. So
normally, I'm not sure why. I think I'm gonna refresh the page. Normally, that should pop me up a window.
Yeah, like
It's
a preview,
perhaps
no?
another, yeah.
Is it a drag and drop?
Ooh.
Maybe that's your. Is that your
Yeah, you
asset?
can either drag and drop, but the other thing is like, let me refresh. It's quite nice because it's automatically like connected with your account and the stuff that I actually saved. But that doesn't want to help me, so I'm just gonna. I actually have them on my desktop. Yeah, I'm just gonna use the manual way.
Cool.
So let's just drag and drop this. But the other ones I had before were like already. Oh, is it on the files? Yeah, no, it's. Okay, we can use this. Cool. Now it's unstuck. So
The beauty of live streaming
that's the
is
nice
fun.
thing that you can have like all your ratios. So I just want the basic because it's gonna be an Instagram post, so it's working pretty well. Like that ratio, and then I'm gonna go ahead and let me select again like my social that I wanna post, and it's quite nice. You can just write your caption. So it can be anything, add any emojis, like so. It's quite nice to just be able to prepare like everything, and yeah, even like preview your post. So that's gonna be how it's gonna look on Facebook, and on my Instagram, and on my LinkedIn. So it's pretty straight away.
Good to see.
And yeah, schedule like tomorrow, and I can select also like what time I want, or I can just save it as draft and leave it or publish it now. So and yeah, it's pretty much straightforward. You just
Nice.
schedule it in, and
It's good to go.
Yeah,
I can
good to
see
go.
I can see we've got as well like some links in the
can
chat.
see
We've got our lovely Tim who just put in a few update links. So again, you can literally click on them straight after this stream. Well, maybe not straight after this stream because there's one more stream, but after that stream, you can get on board and start playing around with it. And also, I've just seen a really cool question from Vanille, I hope I said it correctly, on YouTube saying, could this scheduling feature be used if I am a community manager? So I'd assume yes, because it's
Of course.
yeah, it's designed for
yeah,
anyone.
so you just create your account, and then all you need to do is like put like all your accounts of the different social media you're using, connect them. It takes like no time. It's super quick and easy, and then it's all like ready to go. So you can just use
Good
it
to go,
and
yeah.
post like everything. So that saves you quite a lot of time of opening one by one all the apps and
Definitely.
having to post on each one of them. So or like for me, for example, I focus mostly like on Instagram, so I do like doing manually things there, and it's also where usually I'm chatting with like the creative community and I'm more active. Well, the rest is like I would say I'm just posting and I'm a little ghost there.
Yeah, I love that.
Reality is, but yeah, it's so it's a very very handy like nice way to put like things together nice and quickly. So
When you think about it, it allows you to actually do the thing that you want to be doing, which is designing, right? You worried about the scheduling part.
Exactly.
You book it in the future, and obviously you can get cracking. And we actually got a really cool question, maybe for our final 5 minutes from Jamie. I promise you I haven't missed out your comments because there's so many for you. So Jamie's asked, Tina, where do you get your inspiration from?
So that's a very, very good question. So it's, for me, it's literally kind of like anything around you. Like anything can be kind of like inspirational and something that you could play around with. And as I said, quite a lot of my work is like hands-on. So any kind of like materials, objects, anything that I feel like could be inspirational, I'm just collecting them in my studio in like boxes, which I call them my treasure boxes.
I love that.
Or a collection of rubbish, however you want to call it. And it's all kind of materials. Like this plasticine was just right there. And I was like, oh, that's quite fun. So I was like, what should I do? And I was like, oh, okay. I can just grab this. So they're like a little library of materials and things that they're inspirational. I can just go there, pick, and start playing around. And correspondingly, I do save like also like pictures on my phone, like of things that I like. Whenever I walk around, I take like pictures, and I have like a little library also on my phone, like of things that I like and I could use, or materials, or anything literally. So anything around you can be like quite nice, inspirational. And what I always say is like, I would say, don't try to find inspiration in other professionals, because it's kind of like the same kind of loop of recreating what's already there. So try to be original, try to focus on things that you enjoy, and things that you see around you that could inspire your work. So make it a bit more personal, something that you feel like could be nice. And yeah, the more you practice and you put your mind into this loop, the more ideas that will come to your mind, to a point that you're gonna be, what should I do first? You know.
And I love. I mean, I've never heard anyone have their own treasure boxes at home, so I love that. I can almost imagine like a golden padlock on all of your treasure boxes. But it's cool to sort of hear how different creatives, because again, we have so many creatives on Adobe Live, but it's nice to how everyone has their own way of getting inspiration, how they get inspired. And again, for our final few minutes, let us know. You know, how do you get inspired? You know, hopefully you're watching this and that is one of the cases. But we love to hear from the community. So let us know how you like to be inspired. And we've got our final 3 minutes, and we're good to
I
go.
want to test quickly like a couple of other of the graphics. So I jumped back in Illustrator. I didn't feel
Your
like
favorite place? I love that. Well, you
yes,
typed in
it is
Express,
my
it's
favorite.
good.
Yeah, and I didn't feel like it's ready. So I do like, I would definitely like explore a bit more of like what else I could use.
Yeah.
So
Someone actually asked in the chat, and actually I think you just answered it. Asked what was your favorite program, and I feel like Illustrator is probably the soft
yes,
spot.
I think so. It's the one I usually jump back and forth at, and
Makes sense.
it's like where when I start the project, usually I will open Illustrator and start
the thing,
there.
start.
So it's the
Nice.
one, that I will create like my mood boards, that I will like start designing, and then of course you jump between the different softwares in order to get like your final outcome. But I would say
Nice. That's your
Illustrator
plan.
is the one.
That's the safe space. I love it. We've all got our own. But very cool.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I want to try also a couple of like
Yeah,
different
let's do
colors
it.
to see. And oops, I think I need to get in there. Jump to the background. Oh, even on the background it looks so nice, like the texture it creates on the blue.
I love that.
It-
It's like little E's crying.
yeah, even on
slightly,
the
but-
background I quite like it, so I might. Let me. I'm gonna duplicate it. It's quite nice to be in the background and.
I almost
it's
want to go
quite
into the
fun
screen
when
and
you can
just
do
start playing around with it and molding it now, like going back into your 5-year-old days. But it's, very fun.
Yeah. It's a very nice tool. I really like this new mock-up.
Yeah, it's massively a
Tool.
game changer. That's for sure.
Yeah, it looks like almost like a little collage thing by hand created here
Yeah.
now. It's quite fun.
I mean, you can imagine that would make a very nice social media banner cover already. It's
Yeah, definitely.
got LinkedIn vibes all over it.
And it's quite fun because it looks like almost like a 3D piece. And
Yeah.
It's actually just handcrafted.
I love that.
And yeah,
Very
just a
true.
little experimentation. Oh, that's quite nice how it carves.
Yeah.
Even for motion, you can like. Get
You're already thinking the
ideas.
motion part. of it,
Yeah. It's kind of like you can screen record that part. And
So we need more of our stream now to extend to do now and in the entire motion section. But
Yeah,
very
so for
cool.
example, that would be like an interesting piece I could fit in, like in Firefly, and see like, okay, I have this static type. What can we
Nice.
do?
Cool.
So yeah,
Okay.
it's nice. I like how it distorts like when you get them closer.
Yeah, it's come well. So I think we're on our sort of final few seconds before we jump into our next stream. So I mean, it's in a good place. I feel like. Are you happy
Yeah, I
with what
think-
you've?
Yeah, I
shared?
think we are good. Definitely gonna spend more time, and you will see in the next, hopefully in the next couple of days, the final piece on my
Nice.
social.
And that's a good chance to mention
Let's
to
see.
follow Tina on social. So Tina,
Definitely.
thank you so much for joining us on stream.
Thank
I
you for
hope enjoyed
having
it.
me. It was a pleasure.
I know so much about you now, which is great. So up next, we are going to have a very talented artist by the name of Holly Rose, and they will be hosted by our very own Emma Lextrait. So stay tuned, and we'll be doing a recap of day 2 of Max. So sit tight, my friends, and we'll see you very soon. Ciao, ciao.
Bye, everyone.
And hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're here for a full day, and we're just recapping the second day of Max, which has had a lot of sessions. Like, you've seen a bunch of us live, and we're really excited to recap with you, Holly.
Yes.
For anyone who doesn't know you, quick intros.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm Holly Rose Stones, and I'm a photographer and artist, prop maker, set designer, basically all of the stuff. But I work out of a studio in the UK, but we're here in Munich today.
Yeah, live.
Recapping everything. I'm really excited to jump into all the Photoshop and I've never admittedly used Premiere Pro before until yesterday, and I spent a lot of time doing the Gen Extend, and I'm so excited to talk about that.
I love that. We're not going to judge timelines. We're not going to...
No.
We're just... Everyone's going to be nice and behave in the chat. Yes. But yeah, we just had a watch party for the keynote on Monday, and it's funny, I was saying this yesterday, but when we were covering like highlights, everyone's highlight was Gen Extend, regardless of like the kind of main tool they usually use. Yeah. They were all gravitating towards.
Yeah, I mean, I really am excited as well to use the text to video. That is something that I cannot wait. When I go home this week, I'm going to be on that all week, because I feel like that's something that I have always wanted to try. Yeah. Especially within like using Photoshop and using Adobe. It's just like I really want to like, you know, just see how capable it is to take my photos, you know, all my self-portraits and all the stuff, like the colourful things, and see what it can do with it. So,
and even on the photography side, we've talked about it yesterday with Sophia, but there's been just a bunch of improvements. And if you haven't like seen the keynote, we're really constantly working on it. So results should be getting better, and there's a lot of experimenting I'm sure you're doing as well.
Yes. So I spent a lot of time experimenting. That is kind of what I do anyway, and then the outcome is the outcome, whatever that might be. Experimenting is like my keyword that I always think. If I'm feeling a bit insecure about where it's going or what's doing, I'm just like, I'm experimenting. It's fine.
I love it. And I saw you had a post on your Instagram or TikTok on like identifying the section that was using AI, I think, on the post that I can see on your laptop right now. So we're going to open it up, and then that might be something you show later. But I thought that was really cool, and it was a really cool post.
Yeah, I really want to talk about that. But I think we'll start with Photoshop first, because that is where I am most comfortable. I've been using Photoshop for years and years and years. Yeah. So I feel like that's where we've got a lot to cover as well. I mean, I know Sophia and Amelie did a very good job of that yesterday. Yeah. But yeah, the whole like AI, the whole Extend. I really want. I've got a post. I don't know if it's still on my Instagram. Probably is actually. But just talking about how Premiere Pro has extended that video and how many seconds of that video was actually AI. But I'll talk about that in a little bit.
That's exactly the one I'm thinking
about.
And we'll we'll get you to set this up, and I'll be looking through the chat. So for anyone who's joining in, we're on behance.net/live. We're also live on YouTube, so there's a bunch of chats I'm tracking. So ask your questions for Holly, anything, and we'll just pick it up and answer right away. But Holly, feel free to.
Yes. So I've got a lot to talk about. I feel like there's so much. I mean, I could literally sit here all day and talk about what's happening in Photoshop. But the main thing that I've been working on and loving recently is the generative workspace. So I know I've got this picture on the screen, but we'll talk about that one in a little bit. That's just a little teaser of what's to come in terms of the extend. But I really wanted to just go into Photoshop Beta. And this is an actual image, just ignore that for a second. But so I want to talk about how I use the AI to enable my art. So I work a lot in the studio. I paint, I create, I like tangible things. I like creating sets, like the colour project. I'll show you actually. I've got a little
use
bit.
a lot of props. How much do you make them yourself?
So
And how much do you,
majority,
get?
So a few years ago, I was using Photoshop really, really heavily, and I was like, one day I was like, I really just want to go in my studio and just like tangibly create. So I kind of went the opposite direction of like seeing how much I actually could create in camera rather than Photoshop. So yeah, that was kind of going against what we're talking about with AI, but I've used AI in a way that actually surprised me. I wasn't quite ready for it, but I knew when I embraced it, it was like, this is a whole new level of like creativity. So my work is kind of like whole sets. So I've got a colour project where I go through all the different colours. I've done green, pink, yellow, blue, and orange. And I'm now currently working on the red project. And this is something that I remember when I started the orange project, I think it was last year or year before, kind of like wanting that I wanted this generative workspace, and now it's come out, I'm like, yes, I can't wait. So I've been using the workspace. Let's open it up. So we're just going into Photoshop Beta. I'll just open this up a little bit. Edit, generative workspace. So I like to use AI now as a way to enable my tangible props, art, everything that I work on in the studio. I kind of like the layer of like creating the studio, taking it into Photoshop, and then using AI on top if I need to. But also I've now gone for another layer of like using AI to enable how I create and what my ideas work out. And also thinking of like what props I want to make, and okay, I visualize it, but I don't see it yet until I shoot it. But I need to see it before then so I can make the prop in that certain way. So I've been using the workspace to kind of go through my ideas of the red project. And I forgot to bring the pictures in, but actually, one second, they're on here. Generative workspace. So I do a little doodle. So this red project is kind of based around food. I've got these giant knife and fork, and I'm going to be painting, well, I've already painted them red actually, but you'll have to go to my Instagram to see that. And I've been sort of like playing around with like the doodles of what to bring into Photoshop AI and the workspace to see how I can like evolve the idea. So these are a few doodles that I did on the plane on the way here actually. And I'm just going to open them up into the workspace. So I've actually already done this a few times, been going through like how I could like extend my ideas and also make a mood board. And I'll talk about Adobe Express as well, because I've been using Adobe Express a lot to make mood boards. And I have been using Photoshop, but I just find that Adobe Express is really super fast, so you can just like throw everything in there. So yeah, I have got here, so the red, let's actually do this. Let's start a new one. So we've got the reference image. I'm going to go for a composition reference of, let's see, references. So I want to go for something like, so these are my very, 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 very basic. I mean, all of these doodles are very basic. This is kind of like what I just initially get down onto my paper. So that's kind of a plate with goo falling off of it. I'm not sure even where I'm going with this idea, but I just kind of, I riffed with it. I think that's what I love about AI.
Yeah.
Is that you can really just like go with it, and there's no like, no limit.
Full commitment.
Yeah, no
it's
commitment to the actual
yeah.
And I know in my work is I know that the outcome is the final image, but all the backstory, the how I'm just experimenting is, like I said earlier, it's just one thing that I
That's
do.
a perfect use case, really. I think a lot of questions come up in like previous streams, we were talking about it with Sophia as well, of like, what is the use of it? And it's really about this ideating process of like, it isn't ultimately about the final output, but it's really about, and I think you're using it exactly in that kind of use case.
And it's come almost very naturally to do that.
Yeah.
And I, like I said earlier, with the orange, when I was doing the Orange project, and it was just before I think even generative fill was in. I think it was just around that time.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I just want like a space where I can like just like bring them all together and then I can visualize it in one area.
So how many colors have you done by now?
So I've done I think there's 4 or 5.
Yeah.
5. So green, pink, blue, yellow, and
they've evolved through features, which I love.
Yes.
To see them.
So what I've done
Through
here,
time.
so this is kind of a little trick and maybe a bit of a hack for like using the workspace, but I like to use the reference image as well. We'll use the green project just for now, but because we're doing red, I do actually want it to have an outcome of red. So we'll do the style reference as the green project. So I'm actually using my work as a style reference, and then the composition reference is what I'm using, obviously, from the drawings that I've done, very brief drawings. So let's generate that and see what happens. I'm actually just going to generate without a prompt because sometimes you just do that, don't you? It's just fun.
Wild.
But I'm going to put red goo falling from a plate. And I know Sophia, and I think Emily said it yesterday, like there's an art to the prompting.
Oh, we had this conversation. Do you have tips, Holly?
No, because I think if you probably can read through here, my prompts...
But it works out, so you were doing something right.
My prompts just start... I personally like to use the reference image in the style reference
so that
quite
helps
a lot.
you.
That's more like the direction that I go in. But as you can see here, I used the cake image, which I'd drawn earlier, which you saw.
Yeah.
So that kind of brought up the style reference. But let's see what that's brought up. So that's without any prompt, but I'll do that. But it's obviously going to not come up as red. I think it will become green because if I show you here, so obviously we've got, this was one that I did yesterday when I was playing, and in fact, I love these pink ones. And the yellow, this one, that's my favourite. So what you can do in the workspace is if you click on what's it called? Oh, I think that was just about to save it. So I saw this image and I was like, beads, like, can you imagine? I'm thinking for prop making wise, like what I could actually do with this and
It's really
use it
fun.
for real life,
Yeah.
like how I can then create. And some people might think that's pointless because I could just use this image, but my art is based on creating in the studio with tangible objects, and that's how I like to work anyway. So yeah, we're going to take this image and I'm going to use it. So let's have a look. And obviously you can do the fast mode, which I've been using all the time. I've not seen much difference at the moment, but for me, I don't necessarily use these as like the final image. It's more for, obviously, I don't need a high quality image. It's just for mood boarding. So I'm going to go to Adobe Express where so I like to, like I said earlier, do mood boards in Adobe Express. So this is actually one of my mood boards that I've made for an image, and I'll show you the image. Oops.
And generative workspace is in beta. So, and I
Yes,
know
it
we
is.
have some folks in Europe joining. It's in English for now, but for you, obviously that works.
Yes.
But for anyone who wants to test and play around, there's a blog post as well on the Adobe blog about all the features and kind of the, how you can access them at the moment and kind of the future of them. So as soon as there's more languages, we'll of course, hopefully cover it on Adobe Live. But a couple people are excited also about the sneaks yesterday. I don't know if you watched, Holly, but the sneaks were really late last night.
Yes,
so
we actually went out for a meal. So
makes sense.
But
I
went
caught
home and
up
went
this
to bed.
morning.
Yeah, I should have caught up.
And no, all good. They were really fun. So Kelsey
Yes.
was hosting them, and yes, that's where the chat's mostly gone. But if you have questions for Holly in the chat, let us know.
Yes.
So that was the
So-
final.
Yes, so
result.
that was the mood board that I had. So this was actually for a little magazine that, Adobe actually did. It's called Making Waves. So the theme was making waves. I went with these are obviously existing images. I did some drawing in my sketchbook. Then I actually generated all these backgrounds and obviously did a little bit of a sketch. And that's kind of how my ideas come together using these tools. But then obviously take it into the studio. I actually went and bought all the backdrops and used existing props. And then that was the final outcome of that one. So I always then use the mood board when I'm shooting, because obviously I'm shooting myself as well. It's all self-portraiture. So it's easier for me to have something there. And it kind of takes away the thought process at the time, because I know the outcome will be, the image that I have in my head, but now I can see it on the mood board. So that's kind of like the way I've been using like the generative workspace.
How long is your process from like ideating? So we just kind of covered it with a generative workspace. So how long would it take you to kind of like then go into building the props and like going into the studio and like setting this up, and also probably going through a couple like tests and like, this didn't look like what I anticipated.
Yes. This is, and do you know what, actually the AI has helped me sort of skip quite a lot of that process, as in like, like I know that it's going to work a bit better because I've already like tested it.
The trial and error phase.
Yeah, the trial and error phase. It's definitely, and that's why, I love to be in the studio. So the less time that I'm actually on Photoshop is better for me, because I just love being and creating in the studio. So, probably like this took probably about 6 weeks to make, because I wasn't full time on it. I was doing it as and when like the inspiration hit. I knew like a few years ago I hit a bit of a burnout, so I was like, I needed to like take it a bit slower in terms of like my process of creating. But then some of the images took a bit less time, depending on how like long. Like that costume took about a week to make, and then like the hat took even longer, and so the kind of the ideation process is cut down using AI, and then I can go into the studio. I mean, that took about 3 months to make.
I can imagine.
It was a long process. It's all on YouTube if you do want to have a look.
Oh my God. Do you still have the phone somewhere?
I do, yeah. We actually kept it. It's in like a garage outside, and it's getting like cobwebs and spiders all over it, but I quite like that.
Maybe you can revive it.
Yeah, I kept it because I thought one day maybe I'll do.
You worked so hard on it.
Yeah, and I want to do I'd love to do like a gallery show or something, and bring all the props into one space and make like a colourful
that's a great
world.
idea.
Like, that would be the dream.
Great.
That's kind of where I'm aiming for this project to go. But obviously with the Red project, that's kind of like where I'm at, and it's been going on a bit longer, the Red project, because of. Just some timing and a bit of burnout after I did the orange one. So I was like, I just needed to recoup a little bit. So I went into Adobe Express, and I've been doing like a little bit of a, just a bit of a play around. And what I love about Adobe Express as well, I'm not sure much about like the updates. I think like I don't really do branding and stuff like that, so obviously it's not my forte. But with this kind of thing, I love to like remove backgrounds. That works so well.
And where do you get your inspiration from? I saw you obviously in Munich right now, so you were looking for reds across Munich.
I did, yeah.
But what is that kind of your normal standard ideation process of like kind of just pulling from the outdoors, like where you are?
Yeah, so because it's such a like colourful, bold world that I'm creating, a lot of my actual like inspiration comes from like my day-to-day life and like what's happening in my life, like chapter-wise. So the colour projects, with like the orange project, I was getting into the garden quite a bit, and a lot of it was it was based around my like hobbies essentially at the time. The green room came from a yoga retreat thing that I did, and we had this like thought process, like a little like round circle thing, and they were like, look, think of the room as a colour, and I thought of green, and everything just drenched in green. So I was like, I need to make this, and that happened like 5 years prior to actually, going into the But so my inspiration comes from a lot of places. It just depends. I suppose it's just sitting and thinking and taking time to actually like marinate an idea in my brain, and that's why I absolutely love. And I know we're here to talk about it, but I absolutely love the workspace because it's kind of an extension of my visual. Like I can sit and think about it, but there's no way that I can see it until now. And I just feel like it's been mind-blowing to me, to be honest, that we can actually do this so easily. And an experiment. So yeah, the other thing that we can talk about, a little recap, obviously, is the generative extend, which I love. Oh, oh, that was the other one that came up.
Oh.
See, this is the kind of vibe that I wanted to go for. And I wouldn't have got that with anything other than this image, this reference image, this style image. And obviously that's green, but I can visualize that in red. And I've actually created a plate already back in the studio. And I've got I need to come up with a way of creating goo. I don't know how. I've thought.
This is the challenge. I feel like you can tackle any challenge.
It might take a long time, but so yeah, we'll go on to the Premiere Pro Extend because, like I said, I am new to this, and I think quite a lot of people probably don't use all of the apps in Adobe. You know, like all the Adobe apps. It's just one that I've been quite over. I think because I'm so used to being in Photoshop all the time, and I create obviously videos on my phone and things like that. Premiere Pro is just, I don't necessarily have to do it on a laptop screen. But saying all that, I've been loving the Extend because I've been taking all of my videos that I create, like my Reels, TikToks, YouTube videos, and just testing them yesterday. So I spent the whole day in like a hole of just extending them. You can only, at the moment, extend landscape videos. I think they got to be 1080p.
Yeah.
And there's like, I think it's got to only be landscape. So I've sort of hacked the system and turned all my video landscape, and then I'm going to turn them the other way until obviously it all comes out. But I wanted to show you the video that I made. In fact, I've got it here in portrait because I switched it. Premiere Pro, Doodles Extended. So yesterday I posted on my Instagram story, this video, and I'll just play the whole thing.
Yep.
So it's 12 seconds long. In fact, should I move me?
And it is 1920 to 1080.
1920
resolution.
to 1080.
Yeah.
But I actually flipped this back. So I've just hacked it a little bit because I thought, just want to experiment. So it's a very subtle, this one, but I posted this on my story yesterday, and you can see that some of it, obviously, I mean, it is a video that I took of myself, and there's actually only 2 seconds of this video that is real. So the rest of this video, so 10 seconds of the video, is actually generated by Adobe Premiere Pro Extend, sorry. But I think, if I can guess, because I don't actually know, I think it was around about there.
Midway. I also assumed that when I watched it.
Because there are some telling factors. I'm sure it's all going to get. It's only going to get better, isn't it? Like,
totally, yeah.
But I just wanted to test to see how it would act with an existing video of mine.
And it's really about adding a few more frames. So we've talked about it as like, this isn't like a big drama like extension. It's really about gaining this kind of couple frames when you're, needing it and you didn't get that shot and you just need to add it in.
I can see this being a very, because I obviously do YouTube videos as well. So, and then there's so many times where I will like miss talk at the end of something or not have enough, like clip it a bit too short. And so I know that will be good for my YouTube videos. Yeah. But for me, because obviously I'm thinking like creatively, where can I take this and hack it in ways that I can use for my art? Yeah. This one actually is just I think the first part of this video is very slow. So the blink is actually real. I think the bit before is just not, that bit's the added in bit. But there is another one actually that I did. So I've just done these to be very quick, because sometimes obviously on these live streams the extend doesn't work, but I will show you actually how the extend works. So let me click on so this is a sequence that I made, and I added like an overlay of ants on top. So this is all real. You're going to have to turn your heads this way or that way. And this bit is the extended. So it just added in like a little bit. I'll do it in, because I have to do it in like. So that's real, all real. And it does only allow you 2 seconds, so that's the extended bit. So if I needed just an extra bit, then it works that way. But what you do is, let's start that one again. Well, let's see. In fact, this one's a good one to do. Oh, it's already been done. See, I'm not great with Premiere Pro. This is something I'm going to work on, but you can see here. So if I just press play, so that's real. And then that's the extended bit. It does kind of change slightly in terms of like the grain changes, but I can always add the grain back in. But look how good that is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very natural. And as you said, the video Firefly model is going to keep improving.
Yes.
And I know video is going to be getting a lot of love. So, it's a great time for video folks who are our editors and kind of keen to get playing.
So
We had a couple of questions in the chat. I think one of them was specifically about the workspace just earlier on, and
we'll
I'm
go
trying
back
to
to
find.
that.
I remember who it was Michelle, but I'm trying to find the right chat where you asked the question. So Michelle, maybe you can show that again, Holly. She was asking, so you can use a super simple sketch as a reference image. So let's maybe, if you have a sketch at hand,
do it.
just kind of redo it.
So
we
I'll
can show
start
Michelle.
from the beginning. So if I go to reference and then I'll upload the composition reference. So composition is what it's going to use as like the structure of the image. So I think they actually called it structure reference.
Yeah.
Is it changed? Or maybe not. I don't know. I'm not sure actually. I think I've called it structure reference maybe just because that's the word that I thought would work. But so composition is obviously how it's going to actually look, and where the lines are, it copies sort of like the lines of the image. So we'll go to the doodles, and I'm going to use the cake one just because it won't be super obvious. This is actually not a very simple one, but you can use more simple compositions. So there's the cake image, and then style, I'm going to go on to, it is. So what I've actually done here, and this is just a bit of a hack again for how I do it, is the pictures that I do, so obviously the green project, I've actually turned it into red, just very, very briefly on Photoshop, just to see basically that I want it to look like a red version of that style, because obviously I'm working with like the colour. So if I open, and all of this is very experimental. Like I said, I just love trying it all and then seeing if it works out, and if it doesn't, you move on. And it's obviously all from my ideation. So red cake, and then what I'm going to put is in front of a red draped backdrop. Because my red project, I really would love to use red, like swagged material for the backdrop. So you just click generate. And whilst that's waiting, I'm just going to zoom up to the top because I've got a few. Obviously the red drapes here, that's kind of like one of them. I put a red table with red drapes, red smoke. Because I was thinking, you know what, do I need a bit of smoke in this image? I don't know. So.
Great. Good work. And to answer your question, Ray, because Ray's getting us on track again. He was like, "Did you actually say how long your projects take?" From start to finish?"
Did I not?
I think the assumption was 2 weeks to 3 months, or something like
basically
that. I got that from you.
So it depends how long I'm ideating for, because I think with the colour projects, they're more likely on the longer end. So like 3 months, sometimes 4 months, just because. Again, I had a bit of a burnout a few years ago where I was just doing some like stuff all the time very quickly, and I thought, you know what, I can just like marinate on this a little bit longer and actually enjoy the process. So I do that, and I do it more like naturally to me in terms of like, when I feel like doing a certain thing, like today, because my images are so like wild in terms of like boldness, I want it to almost like all come together like smoothly. So I don't want to just force it all, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of like
quicker. We'll check in next year and see how you're doing with Firefly, like accelerating your process. And you'll be like, I do things in like 10 days now.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, sometimes like the other images that I do. So I'll just go off of this and we'll go back to Photoshop.
Yes.
So this is an image that I've been making. So I've been venturing out of the colour project for a little bit. Sometimes as well, that's why it takes me so long, because I start the project and then I go, you know what, I'm a bit burnt out by that. So I'm going to, and I always listen to myself. I think that's like the important part of like creating, is that I always make sure that I'm listening to where my creativity is being spent and how. And so sometimes I take a break from a certain project just for a little while whilst I can like scratch another itch. So this one, these are the images that literally take me a couple of days. So I'll like shoot it in the studio and then the next day I'll edit it. So it'll be only like 2-day project. So I always scratch the itch of like, if I've got something to do very quickly, or so if I've got a concept that I want to do very quickly, then I will literally just go into the studio, shoot it and edit it. But with my colour projects, that scratches the other itch of like taking some time. And having it always in the back, because I think it's, for me, I always like to have something on the go in the background so that I know that I've got something that I can fall back on if I lose like sight of like where my creativity is going. But yeah, I might as well work with this one just for a moment, just because the the Photoshop Firefly Model 3, is it? It's just, yes, so that's the update. 3. So obviously it's getting better and better, the generative fill. And generative fill is something that I use in my work a lot. More recently, majority of this is real, but like things like the extent, like the little bit at the end of like the wall, or like if I need to neaten up the hairline or something like that, I will just circle it. But I was going to just show you actually how good this is for putting in very similar flowers, because I think it was yesterday with Sophia, or
she was testing the sheep specifically.
Yes.
I can't remember what Emily was working on.
Yeah. And
but that works really well.
Yeah, so I'm going to put dahlia, which obviously these flowers are dahlias. That's what I've been growing. These are all grown in my garden. A lot of it is obviously inspired by nature. So I'm just going to circle here, because why not? And we're going to go dahlia. And I'm just going to put dahlia because I think, again, I sometimes just sit there for an hour and just put in a prompt and then see, then put in a prompt and see. And
you can do it over and over again if you're not happy with the result.
Yeah, that's what I love about
no one should feel stuck to the output.
Oh, I say that it does the right one, but I suppose that is a dahlia, but it's not actually matched. But earlier, it kind of is. Yeah, that's
I like that
nice. But just before I came on, I was actually playing around with this, and I'll just put in the one that came up. So that actually came up first for me. So it's very similar. Obviously, we're missing a few petals, but not all flowers have.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like natural. Like something happened on the way.
Yeah. And then I think I'd put one there, which is very similar. And if I just go through them ones, they're all dahlias, but these ones are the ones that look very similar to the outcome. So that's kind of like, I'm really loving this new, obviously, Image Model 3 in Firefly, Model 3, because it's just nailing it quite a lot.
And for everyone asking in the chat, there were questions on how to access the beta. You should be able to access it, but I know Tim was getting back to everyone in the chat on that. But yeah, you can download the Photoshop beta in your app.
Yes. So what else did I have? I think, so this was playing around with it again, with the extending of the background. Let's see if I can actually, so I'll take that off. I'm not sure why it's got lines on, but I must have put that in the middle just to see where that little blue man was going to be. So this is a crop of my doodle photo. And I just wanted to do and show you what the capabilities of extending background does, because I love doing this as well. Sometimes if I'm a bit uninspired or not feeling like creative, sometimes I just go into Photoshop and spend hours just like playing around with my old work and just extending the backgrounds and seeing what I can add in extra. And then sometimes with like the dahlia photo, I think I should have, oh, there we go. That one, I should have put more dahlias in it the first time around. But yeah, so let's do.
And that also worked really well. I think Sophia was explaining it yesterday, where there are like easier examples and there are examples that you're like, oh, this is going to be a bit tougher when they have to, like, for example, now with a face, I think that's trickier.
Yeah, because
than like
obviously this is not,
I
think I like to test it.
The boundaries.
Just challenge the boundaries of like what it's doing. So it's not necessarily like seriously thinking of that, I'll extend the background and then put this out as my image. It's more like to like, scratch the itch of like, oh, what could happen?
Yeah.
So I'll do the expand on this.
And there were questions in the chat about credits specifically, so just want to address that while this is kind of generating. There are a couple of features that have just been exempt from consumption of credits. So that means you can just try it out without worrying about using them up. And that includes generative workspace in beta that Holly was kindly showing to us earlier, generative extend in Premiere Pro, which you were also showing. So yeah, there's ways, and also Adobe Express Clip Maker. So we'll put that in the chat, but there are ways for you to test this without using up your credits, which is great.
Yes. So this is what's happened. Obviously, this is my face, so now it's not as...
You look different.
Yeah, I look different. But again, this is just me going, oh, what are the possibilities? And then using this tool potentially, when I'm shooting my self-portraits, I have an idea of what capabilities I have in Photoshop. So when I'm like photographing like the daily, if I go back to the dahlias, then I know that I needed to put the dahlia here and shoot it up here and things like that, and obviously get the right composition and lighting. But now I know that I can extend a background, and that could pass, but obviously it is a bit of work. But I'm like, right, I know that in Photoshop, if I make a mistake in the shooting process, that I can come back in and fix it, or just play with it again. It's just experimenting, isn't it? But yeah, so I think I was actually going to do the background. So I've just moved so if I just I'm just going to remove the background on this is obviously the zoomed out version of the image we've just been working with. And I'm going to generate a background of doodles, blue, man with, well, I'm not going to put man because it might actually come up with a man, with red, I've actually got one there, squares and yellow triangles. Just why not? Because again, sometimes when I'm shooting these images, like this one, for example, if I go back to the video, I actually shot this image on a different colour background. It was just like a beige one at the time. I didn't really have a plan for this. So when I brought it into Photoshop, so that was actually me shooting the image. When I brought it back into Photoshop, I was like, I'll change it to blue. Let me just delete that. So I changed the backdrop colour to blue just to match and complement the colours of the doodles. So yeah, this is the background that's brought up. And again, I could actually do the doodles, have the background generated for me if I wanted to, or I could just change the colour. But they're fun.
Well, they're fun. They are.
I mean, it's very bold, but I quite like that one. But yeah, then I might take this forward, because the reason why I'm using these doodles is because I actually, me and my partner one time were sat down, I think after work or whatever, and we started doodling on a piece of paper together, and we did this whole pattern, and it was actually that pattern. So it was the pattern here. So I randomly went into the studio. I love the idea, yeah. I randomly went into the studio and I thought, I'm going to put this on my face. And ever since then, I've been really drawn to this little stick man.
I don't know how you do it on yourself, because I think on someone else would be easier, but I couldn't, when you have to braid your own hair.
Yeah, it was quite hard.
It
is quite hard, because, it took me a couple of hours to, get it right. But obviously, I enhanced it a bit in Photoshop, but made sure that it was all on my face anyway. But yeah, so I think, let's just see we've got to cover the remove wires and people, but I think I'm going to stick to the wires. Yeah. So these are images.
We haven't had wires yet, actually. A lot of people, the previous streams, I think covered mostly people. Sophia was really, so you're bringing the wires.
Yes.
Sorry.
So these are pictures. Let me go back to here. Remove tool. So these are pictures that I took the other day, actually. So this is my studio. So I don't know if anyone I think it was actually the whole of the UK saw the Aurora Northern Lights.
I know, I saw that on, and I thought that was very unfair for the rest of us in Europe, because I just saw it from Instagram stories.
So many people.
I think some people in Italy got them. Yeah. If you did, let us know in the chat. But they're beautiful.
But yeah, so obviously I took a picture in my studio. Well, with my studio, this is my little studio here. I'll just show you a daytime picture so you can see what it actually looks like. But I have these wires above them, and they actually really annoy me because every time I take a picture, I'm like, oh, it would be really nice if they didn't exist.
Yep.
So I'm going to do the remove wires here. So where's the tool? So if you go to remove tool and then find distractions, wires and cables.
And Judy's telling us she could see the aurora in Maryland, US. So
yeah, I feel like I
sounds
did see some people.
Interesting. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This might. Oh, here we go. I was testing this on my computer laptop earlier and it was a little bit slow, so I do have one saved. Oh, is it going to do it? But it will be exciting if it does. Because I post obviously the outside of my studio because it's just so beautiful on my Instagram stories all the time, but
it doesn't do it justice.
Yeah, could just like remove the wires.
And I was saying this yesterday, but Terry was like in the demo in my keynote on Monday, like if you like the cables, keep them. Like,
yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
loved. It's like,
yeah. Oh look.
oh nice, perfect. That was smooth.
Yeah. So that was really good that worked because I was trying to do this earlier and it wouldn't work. But that was only because I think I had slow internet. But yeah, you can't see them now. So look how good that looks now. So if I go back to this one, I want to try it on this one as well. In fact, I did try it. I'm gonna not do the actual clicking of the one-click removal because I've already done it. But what I like about this is that it actually left the little bird in here.
That's interesting.
So it did make me chuckle a little bit. So this is just outside my studio as well.
I love that you had to like zoom in, like, what is that?
I was like, oh, I wonder if it'd actually just remove it, but it clearly understood that it was a bird. So yeah, I'm not sure how often I'd use this tool, but I think I can see where it would be handy to use. And like I say, if I ever take a picture of my studio, I might do it just to post on Instagram.
And we have questions, more and more questions. So people joining, which is great.
Hello,
we have about
everyone.
like 10 to 12 minutes to go. But Giovanna's asking, for your color projects, do you plan what will be practical objects or what is going to be done on post? Like, do you have a plan ahead of time?
So I make sure that I plan, I don't know if I can go on my Instagram. I'm not sure if I'll have, so this is the picture the video of me. I don't know if it's actually going to be a long video of me film. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see in the background. Here's all my props. But I make sure that I have an idea that I kind of like have a plan, almost like a bit of a storyboard of like what I need to make next. So I usually do like the backdrop last because it's the biggest part. I don't know if I've got a video actually of me filming. Yeah, this one. So this is how I paint the backdrops. Just use some matte paint and paint. But obviously that's the final before I actually shoot. So by this point, I have all my props ready to go. But yeah, so I don't know if I've got any others. But you can see all these, like, so this is me painting the pink prop. There's a little bit of the telephone, creating the buttons for the telephone. That was me painting all the props. So kind of like just, I make all the props first. I make sure I've got the idea and the mood board done. Obviously I do set up the set the night before every time I shoot these kind of images because I make sure like that I know I've got a clean head when I go into the studio. So yeah, it's just a process.
Have you experimented with stock images? I know Nicholas is asking in the chat because I think AI sometimes, Firefly can definitely support with like creating what you're envision.
Yeah.
But Nicholas has been asking, and I know Tim's already on it with like how to access Adobe Stock and get some images from the free collection and so on.
Yeah, so I've used a little bit of Adobe Stock in the past, but to be honest, I prefer just using the AI. I think with Stock, because I've got such a vision of like my props and what I want, I always make it.
Yeah.
And if I needed a stock image, I probably would go out and create it.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't go hand in hand in that way with mine. But yeah.
And there's a bit of researching. There's definitely, like the prompting, there's a keyword kind of experimenting process with stock as well to find the right image that you need.
That kind of excites me more than just going on and scrolling for ages trying to find a stock photo.
And that answers Giovanna's question, so...
Yes.
Thank you for Holly.
So I was just going to go and have a look at this. I think I created this one. So this was part of an art story that I did for, again, the Making Waves zine. and I do like a little like sort of video alongside a lot of my art. And I think, is it this one? Yeah. So this is one I actually extended 2 seconds at the end just to see what it would do. So this was part of the story, and this is the extended bit. You can see there, my eyes just, that's clearly not me. But I just found it fascinating. If I go back, so that's obviously the real, and then that's like the extended bit.
Yeah, but I think faces can change a lot in terms of like not being identified. It could be like just a small feature that changes and you just can't recognize yourself.
But personally, I just get excited about that can actually happen rather than, I think I did it with this one. Yeah, so that was the extended bit, the bit where it went like that. There.
Oh yeah,
that's
you can see a little bit of movement.
Slightly, yeah. But it is mind-blowing how it's taken everything into account and then just added it on.
Awesome.
This one, actually, let me see. So I know it's sorry about it being sideways, but I'm just hacking the system at the moment. So hopefully one day, I'm sure they will bring it into vertical video, but for now it is just landscape. So this is a 9-second video, and I think only 2 seconds of this video is real. So this bit, well, I'll see what you think. So
it's
you can't, that's when I was like, oh yeah, you can't really tell.
No.
But it's actually, I think, just about there.
And if you know in the chat, let us know if you can really see it.
I think it was about here.
Yeah.
That's the real bit, and then it goes to the extended bit there. But I was mind blown by that because I was like, oh, like there was a point actually when I was filming this one where I was like, I should have just got a little bit extra. So that just solves that problem. So, and then I think that was the, I don't think, there was one actually, I don't know if I've got it still in my timeline.
So where are you at on your red project? That's the one you're working on now, right?
Yeah.
So where are you at? What's the kind of next step?
So the next step is to do a mood board. I mean, I was I was going to do a mood board with you all today, but I'm sure I'll be posting it on my Instagram and everything. And I'll go back to my Adobe Express, but like if I remove the background there, that's kind of like the vibe that I was maybe going for. But yeah, I'm kind of at the conceptualization stage. I've painted the knife and fork, so I've got them. They are a giant. They're like literally huge. So I painted them, and then again, that's where I'm like, next stage is to create this goo. I'm not sure how I'm going to make it, but again, with the AI, I quite like the beads because the goo is going to be messy, and I don't know quite how to make it yet. But then that's the fun of it for me. That's kind of where I get like my kick out of creating, is that I'm like, how am I going to make this? And then when I do make it, I'm like, oh, okay, I nailed it.
And I love it because this year have been all about, and not just this year actually, like, you know, in the long-term future, all about giving power to creators. And I think you're a perfect example of how this just kind of empowers you and gets your workflow to be faster. And so you really feel like you're in control of it. Like and I love what you were saying at the beginning, which is, I just, like, there's no commitment. Like, I can just try stuff endlessly, and that whatever comes out, if it works for you, doesn't, you know, you can use
I think
it
this is the thing, obviously, with AI, it's quite, when I first, obviously, you know, I love working with Adobe and everything, but when I first heard about the generative fill, and the AI, I was like, oh, how am I going to implement this? Yeah. But really, it really just slotted in at such a perfect time in my, like, creative career, because I was like, this is what I can harness it. And I think that's what we have to remember as creators, that this is not here to, like, hinder you. It's actually going to benefit you, because I'm not going away from making my props in my studio. That is something that I will always do.
And we're fine with that. You should totally do that.
So I'm never going to stop doing that, because it's something that I've always loved doing. That's you know, where I've been with this project. And and I think we also saw with Amelie and Sophia, and these sessions are all available on replay if you want to catch up, is that their style is very different to yours as well. So it's really interesting to see across, like, photography and photographers, how that can be used in completely different ways. For Sophia, it felt like, you know, she's really focused. She doesn't do a lot of landscape, she does portrait as well. But she could use it in a completely different way, which was really really I think that's why I love, like, seeing everyone else creating, and, like, all the live streams over the past week, because it's been a few days. It's just been so inspiring to see how people are using it. And like, I wouldn't maybe necessarily have used the Extend Premiere Pro, but now I'm going to go home and I'm going to be like, what else can I extend?
Now you're, like, wanting to get into video, but you do have a YouTube channel, you were saying.
I do. So I do create video. So a lot of my alongside all my portraits, I pretty much make a video, and I'm doing YouTube and my art stories and things like that. So, yeah. I think, the past few days have been really intense, overwhelming, but also I'm so inspired. I think that's the main thing, is that we can all go away from this knowing what we've got, so much work to do based on.
Totally. And are you going to continue with colours? Where does red then go on to? What's the long-term?
So I've got...
I might have asked you before, but just to check in with everyone.
I really want to do purple after this. Like, I've already got like an idea.
I was wondering
of
earlier, I
purple.
was like, what colour has she not done? And purple came to mind. So,
so purple, I want to do rainbow, the whole rainbow spectrum.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
And then...
would you do like all of them combined? Like, would you do something?
So I think, I don't know if I spoke to you about this, but I really would love to do like maybe two-tone.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Maybe like a half and half, or
okay, endless opportunities.
Or like
again.
a bit of like a yin and yang, like
love
like
that.
red on one side, green on the other side,
and like transitioning.
Yeah,
Ooh,
and
nice.
so this is kind of like, again, it's just like endless, limitless, like. And I'm also probably going to be going into Photoshop Beta and that's generate image, edit, generate workspace. And I love that as well. I don't think we mentioned this, but all of your prompts are saved. So things from months ago are still there. I'm not sure how far. Oh, that was so nice. I absolutely love that. This cake.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's square, but it's fine. I can change it to...
And we have about 2 to 3 minutes to go. And it's actually our last
Yeah.
Max stream, also on the US side. So we're kind of like wrapping up the, the full day of lives, couple of days of live. So if you have your final questions for Holly or for anyone else, we can pass them over. But there are ways to catch up on all the features that were released at Max. Firstly, you can rewatch sessions, which is great. You can also catch up on sneaks, which were amazing, and
I am going to go and watch it all now.
I think it's my favorite every year, just to see like product folks coming on stage and pitching like the wildest dreams. And that's also how Gen Extend came to life, with like some of these kind of ideas popping up out of the blue from our engineers. And you can also catch up on the Adobe blog. So I put the link on the chat on YouTube, but I'll put it on Behance as well if you're watching there. You'll get like a perfect recap of all these features, how you can really use them. I think, Holly, you've covered pretty much everything on the Photoshop side, so that we're good to go. But if you want to explore that, there are all the right links. There's a main blog, and then you can go into like specific Photoshop, Premiere Pro. I think there's also Express covered. But yeah, you can of course catch up on our sessions otherwise. Kieran, Clara, everyone did just such a great job hosting.
Yeah, they have. It's been such a good couple of days.
Yeah.
I spent the whole day yesterday watching all the streams as well. That's when I was doing all my Premiere Pro extending. I was like, oh, because I think Sean talked about it quite a lot.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
But yeah, it's been such a good couple of days.
It's
been enjoyed like being with everyone. I think it's been, it's exciting to be here as well in Munich, which is closer to home, UK.
Yeah. And I'm always amazed because we always have these streams right after the keynote to just see, and obviously you kind of have a feel of what's coming up, but you're just able to test so much straight after the keynote, like you did yesterday, just playing around.
Went home straight away.
So everything you've seen is pretty much fresh, and all our folks really testing features and playing around. So I hope you're doing the same at home. Thank you so much for joining us at Max. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we're looking forward to next year, but we have plenty more streams as well, which is exciting. We do stream from Munich occasionally, and we have a newsletter as well you can join to keep in touch with us and for us to keep in touch with you. So you'll be able to stay in the loop. I'm sure Tim will put the link to the chat if you want to register to our newsletter and stay in touch.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Holly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.